Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 5, and I believe episode number 823 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Monday, January 5th, 2026. And it seems to be a bit of a great day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And not with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. But we will have a little bit of him on the show through the magic of the internet, because yesterday he did his week-long wrap-up, which he usually does a lot of Friday, but did it a little later this week. And, had a couple of things to say that will fit in with the theme of the show. So we'll bring you a little Grizzly in case you did not see him yesterday. But I do recommend that you take the time to see what it is that he offered yesterday if you have the opportunity. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and cubs, how's your mental health today? Mine, have to say, surprisingly good, considering. Anything happened on the weekend at all? Gee. Oh, thank you, Kit Breens. Love Mr. Beaver's look today, especially the Dreamcatcher ring. Thank you so much. That's actually a gift from my Beaver sweetie. These actually used to belong to his mother, who passed away when he was pretty young, still a teenager. And yeah, he gave them to me for Christmas one year and said, you should probably wear those. And I thought, well, I don't want to wear them out of the house because, they don't have any backing tip. And I've had earrings like that before, especially in the winter. They get caught in your scarf and you remove your scarf and then all of a sudden you've lost your earring. And I definitely don't want to lose an heirloom. So I actually keep them right here on the desktop in this little box. And decided that I could put them on to do the show, and once the show's over, I have to remember to take them off and put them back in the box, and that way I will not lose them, so long as I remember to take them out. It's not always obvious. So when I sign off, by the way, kids and cubs, if you can send me a little reminder, don't forget to take off the earrings. That would always be appreciated. You could just say earrings, actually, and I'll get it from there. Yeah. It's oh boy. Yeah. It's been an eventful weekend. I think we can all agree, and we will get into that. But mental health overall pretty good, especially if I like set away this the major events of the weekend. Also, the fact that Team Canada lost for the third year in a row at the World Juniors against the Czech Republic in a match that was just really uh, exciting, but at the same time frustrating to watch. So we might get into that a little bit later as well. Boy, and but other than that, I had a good weekend. We got back home from our Christmas travels. 10 days in a row away from home, sleeping in four different beds was a little rough. I how to put it? I typically don't like to be away that long, particularly in the holidays. I often sometimes prefer to do the Christmas thing and then come back home for a few days and then travel again for the New Year stuff if needed. Um, the traveling back and forth isn't the most fun part, but given that my family as a kid was always pretty much spread out, that's kind of normal for me for the holidays. When I was a foster kid, we'd do Christmas Eve with my foster parents, and then go and spend Christmas Day with my mom, and then at some point get on a bus and do New Year's Eve or something with my dad, and then continue, and then ring in the New Year or start the New Year with my well, technically my half brother, but I don't make any difference. My brother Robert in Trois-Rivières, and I did this pretty much, many years between the ages of 8 and 21. Pretty much every year between the ages of 8 and 21. I remember the first year, I think somewhere around the time when I was 20, where I sent the message out to everyone, says, I travel every year. This year, if you guys want to see me, you come to me. And everybody was like, why are you doing this to us? It's like, okay, fine, I'll travel. So that's something that's not really all that demanding for me. So, but we spent the whole time away, and it was wonderful time. Don't get me wrong, absolutely wonderful time. But my sleep has been thrown off the last few days in the Toronto and the Barrie area. I slept very poorly, and was hoping that getting back home to my own bed would make it such that I would sleep better, but that has not happened. So there's a couple of nights I know I've slept because my eyes are not burning and all that kind of stuff, but you just you feel like you're awake the whole night, and it's sort of like you don't know if you actually got any sleep because it doesn't feel like you did. You don't actually remember sleeping or waking up. You just remember being up all night. That feeling. The last 2, 3 nights have been like that. So it's yeah, a bit weird. I'm craving a nice peaceful night of continuous sleep, which I will probably be getting tonight because once this happens to me a few nights in a row, that's when I usually attempt a melatonin, sorry, and that will help, I am sure. But over the course of the weekend, Beaver Sweetie and I had some lovely time, calm. Didn't do too much that was exciting, but had some quality time together, which we didn't have a lot of because doing all the family stuff. So just some time, me and him, you know, connecting and you know doing house stuff. Like for example, it was really interesting. We went to do groceries last night, and normally we don't go and do groceries alone, right? Together, I should say. We just have a, oh, we need to pick this up, and then as I'm coming back from curling, I'll make a stop at the grocery store and put a couple of things in my bag, and then come back home. And if I have to do something a little larger, sometimes we'll arrange a time for him to come and pick me up, for example, rather, if I'm going to have 8 or 9 bags, it's like, I don't want to walk all the way to the bus stop with that and then from the bus stop to home. So, come and pick me up. But yesterday we went together, and it was just a little bit of domesticity. We cooked, made sure that you know, things like packing his lunch last night instead of packing it this morning and scrambling so that he can get off to the best day. We're trying to do the best we can to get the new year off to a good start, and adopting some new habits and some clearer routines, and trying to do things a little more in advance so that we're scrambling less. We found around the end of the year that we were, like, what are we going to do for supper tonight? And then open the fridge. Ah, darn, we didn't have time to pick up any groceries, so let's just MacGyver stuff. And I'm not a particular fan of that. For me, food is a celebration, and it's when 3 times a day, you get to do something good for your body or put something on a plate that will bring you a little happiness and a little joy, hopefully. And so I like to take time for that. And so I like preparing good meals on a Sunday and making sure that we have plenty of leftovers for the week. And not that we're not going to cook anything else during the week to give us a little variety, but just to have something planned so that we're not scrambling. There's always some type of leftover or something in the freezer we can defrost or something, and have good meals that we planned out and that are nutritious and all that kind of stuff. Yours truly is also trying to lose a little bit of weight, a little bit of vanity, because there is a vacation coming along, and there will be some beach time. So, uh, want to try to get as close to my bikini body. And then, of course, given that we are in a new year, I'm already looking forward to tennis season, and I would like to start the season this year at tennis weight. So, a couple of things like that. But of course, that involves, again, making sure that you plan good meals and cook good meals. So, yeah, we're trying to not so much resolutions, but trying to make some lifestyle changes um, that would be more permanent, uh, so that we are just a little less stressed, a little less scrambling, less feeling that we're just hurtling from one thing to another, a little bit breathlessly. I'm a bit of a planner. My baby sweetie is a little more bohemian. So you know, we're trying to match our levels. I'm trying to do more planning without being a taskmaster, let's say. And he is making an effort to try and acquire a little more organization and discipline, and hopefully, so we'll find our point of connection at which we are both comfortable, that yields improvements for both of us. So that's what the plan is for 2026. Not resolutions, but more just are there ways that we can, with a little planning and foresight, make it such that our lives are a tad less stressful. Let's put it that way, because life comes with its own fair share of stress. I think we can all agree. And whatever we can do to be in the best possible mode to deal with stress when life throws you curveballs, or schedules get tight, or life sometimes just becomes a little much. Um, if you can avoid having all those other little stressors around somehow, then you might be in a better position or better resourced to be able to take on those little stresses and emerge from them a little more victorious. So that is the plan for this year. So far, we are the fifth, and we are maintaining it. Let's see how long it lasts. We are two pretty stubborn slash determined, depending on which side of that coin you want to look at. Determined being the more positive side, stubborn being, connotatively, the more negative side of that. Because a little stubbornness can help you. Too much stubbornness can hinder you, right? Too much of a good thing, or is just as bad as not enough. Enough, let's say. Same thing with determination. It's good to have it, but also knowing when to quit. Very useful skill. There's only so many times you should bang your head before on a brick wall before you realize it feels good when you stop. Let's put it that way. So yes, so yeah, slight lifestyle changes in that sense in order to try to make life a little more smooth throughout, so that way you can better handle the speed bumps. That's the mental health situation here. Um, let's get into things, kits and cubs. Um, let's see who's here to start the day here, because you guys are already chatting. We have Kit Argosi Acres. Yes, some chat about what's going on out there between the breakdown and James DeFiore from Blackball and Dave Wallace. We mentioned it a little bit on our show the other day because there was a story in the Globe and Mail about a judicial injunction that was granted in that case. But it seems here from the Dam Fam, according to them, that Nate has done a particularly compelling show that I have not checked out yet. So I will, but I always trust the Dam Fam's judgment, and they say that it is a good show. So I am pre-recommending it to everyone, even if I haven't heard it yet, because I am relying on the fantastic judgment of my audience, which is discerning, and has very, very, very good taste, if I do say so myself. So, so yeah, that's going on there, and it's uh, like I said, staying out of it, absolutely. Uh, not our circus, not our monkeys, as the saying goes. But it is, uh, it's weird to be on this side of things that are happening with three people with whom we have collaborated in the past, who we have considered as friends of the show. And we do, how would you put it? Uh, there are some developments in all of that that break our heart. But, you know, people go through what they go through and they make the decisions that they make, and the consequences will fall where they may on that. But yeah, it's when that kind of stuff happens, it's best not to get publicly involved and take stances because we don't have all of the information. There are a lot of blanks to fill in. So it's there are times where just offering support to friends, letting them know that they are still friends if the opportunity arises. Um, right, that's important. Sometimes you also have to walk away, and there are cases that has happened in this case as well. Um, you know, but it's when you're looking at it from the outside, it's it's hard and it's sad, and particularly if you're a little bit of an empath, you would like to rush in and try to save everyone and be the peacemaker. But it's it's not your place, it's not your role. So you just gotta uh, let, I guess, people follow their paths, and I guess when things hit the fan or not, as they do, if there's an opportunity and if there's a willingness to be there to help pick them up, if that is the case, and if that is wanted, and it is not toxic to yourself to do so, because self-preservation above all. But yeah, uh, sitting back and watching things happen can be hard and heartbreaking a little bit. And I will admit that I am confused and perplexed about all of it. Not sure how it all came about. Not sure what are the reasons for which um, what are the reasons for which this path has been chosen. But the path has been chosen. It's been engaged upon. It seems that some are rather committed to seeing this path through to its ultimate destination. And I guess, like I said, you let people make their own decisions, and then there may come a time where it may be appropriate for you to offer support if it, again, if you have the time, the energy, and the resources and the inclination. And we'll see where this ends. Um, but yeah, we are very, very, very sad that all of this is happening in this way and in such a public way, um, and a cutting way in certain instances. Um, Nobody that does this type of thing should be the story, right? The focus should be on the actual stories and not becoming the story, whether that is seeking to be the story or whether it's being dragged into a story against your will. It's yeah. There's no point in taking sides in this because, again, there's just so much information about how things went down and about motives that we are not privy to and that only the parties involved, these are things that are the parties involved and the parties involved alone to know. And, in a situation like this, even if they are sharing, you know, or, you know, confiding in you and, or asking for your support in taking a side, um, you still don't have the entirety of the information, and you have to leave yourself open to the opportunity that what is being said to you in those cases may or may not be geared in order um, to gain support or allyship in some kind. And again, not having all the pieces, you don't know exactly how true or how massaged what you are being told is. And you you love the people that are involved. And sometimes the best way to show you love someone is to not rush in to try to save them or correct them or anything, but it's just to, you know what, this is your own journey. And clearly, you have things that you feel you must do. And clearly, there are things that you must learn because everything in life that one pursues comes with a lesson. Sometimes it's a lesson that is positive and is good and gives you wings, so to speak. And sometimes it's a lesson that can punch you square in the face and land you on your backside for a little bit. And you learn the hard way. So this will go where it goes. We have no dog in this fight whatsoever. We have no public positions to take on this whatsoever, other than we're just sad that it is happening and that three people for whom uh, we have a lot of care and affection are going through things that might have been totally unnecessary from the get go. There might have been another way uh, that each of the parties involved could have gotten to what it is that they are seeking. But this is the path that has been chosen. And, you know, whether one is on the provocation side of this equation and whether another one is on the receiving side uh, of the situation. Um, what one does in that case, um, you know, let's put it this way: not involved with this situation. There have been other situations that people have wanted us to take a stand on or drag us into in the past, and there's again, they say when an issue is not yours, and being able to have the distance to recognize that an issue is not yours and to fight that instinct to rush in and try to fix things is hard, right? I remember there was a situation with my former best friend where he started making some life decisions that were, I knew they were going to lead to a bad place, because there's absolutely no way that these types of decisions don't lead to a bad place, because the decisions my former best friend was making are decisions that almost always, always, always lead to a bad place. And it was very rough watching someone that you love just circle the drain. And I tried for a long time trying to pull him back, and it was exhausting, it was draining, it was emotionally devastating, and it was all for naught, because he went down the path he went down anyway, and he was so far gone. And you're sort of watching someone you love circling the drain a bit like this. Ugh. And you can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about it. It's one of the most painful things out there, because you love them so much, and you can't save them. You can't save them from the situation, or you can't save them from themselves, or save them for whatever it is, but you can't. And it's not your place to. The only thing you can do is be there once it hits, and maybe they have a realization, and maybe they come back to you, maybe they don't. And sometimes when they come back to you, in the case of my former best friend, he did come back to me, and I did offer to help. But um, turns out I realized a few months later that I wasn't helping, I was enabling. And I had to put an end to that too, which is one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my entire life. We had been friends for about 26 years at that point. And it was like, yeah, I'm sorry, but I need to back away. And wherever I am while this is going on, you cannot be anymore. And while I am kind and welcoming, soft, and all of that kind of stuff, I am also rather decisive and consequential. I'm the type of person who, if I say, if you do X, Y will happen, and you do X, Y does happen. It just does. There are no surprises with me. Let's put it that way. I give you the roadmap to be able to deal with me. If you want with something from me, here's how you go about getting it. I will tell you. And but I also have very, very firm boundaries, and I've developed over the years a particularly good skill at enforcing them and respecting them, because it's a matter of self-respect at that point, and deciding what it is you want to allow in to your life, and what you don't want in, and you get to make that choice sometimes. But then you have to have the wherewithal to insist upon it, and basically, I'm sorry, but that's not going to work here, and that's not going to work with me. So that's where we, yeah. So personal life experiences in the past sort of led me to this, to have the wisdom of knowing when it is you need to step back. And so all I can do is hope that everything ultimately gets resolved for the better with as little damage as possible. And we watch like this as it happens, unfortunately. All right, who else do we have here? We have Kit Saucy with us. We have Kit Tabby G, Kit J Crick with us. We have Kit Playing with 3D and Kit Argosi Acres with us this morning. Kit Mohan, I believe, is with us. So hello to you and family. We have Kit Elaine with us. We have Kit Cassie. Hello, dear one. I hope you and the cowboy are doing well, and that 2026 has gotten off to a good start. Let's see, who else do we have? We have, let's see. Oh, Kit Grace is with us. Good. Yeah, not good. Anxiety, current affairs. Yeah, I understand. Mental health is a little rough the last few days. Let's see, who else do we have with us? We have Kit Jillian with us this morning. Hello to you. Kit Bucky is with us as well. And yeah, exactly here. Trump's actions are illegal and unjustified, but historically, it's hard to call it unusual. Indeed. Indeed. There's a little dose. We are knee deep in real politic at the moment. So we'll get into that. Kit Nona Carol is with us here. Also, let's see. The Breens are with us. Hello, good morning to both of you. Hope you are having a beautiful sunshiny day. We have Kit Donna with us, and I believe you mentioned earlier on in the chat that you might be starting new work today or something. If that's the case, sending all our good vibes your way so that you have a fantastic experience at it. You get all the vibes today. There we go. Kadana, I love cooking big meals for leftovers on the weekend. I guess we share that in common, indeed. Let's see, who else do we have here? Kit playing with 3D, I think I may have already mentioned. And I think that might be everyone here today. I will keep scrolling in case I see. Kit Mayhem is with us as well. A few names that I've missed. But yeah, Kit Bomb is with us too. Hello. Nice to see you. It's nice to see you in the chat again. Bon matin. I believe Kit Bomb is Kit Chrystia, if I remember correctly, because the names here have changed on our feed. So I'm still trying to recognize everyone with the new names that appear. Kit PNC Bio is with us as well. Kit J Crick is with us. I believe I might have mentioned that before, but that's okay. I have no problem giving people a double shout out. Mr. Jim is with us. Good morning to you, sir. And please give a big hug to Mama Lori for me. Actually, make it a half a dozen. And half a dozen for you too. I'm feeling generous. I'm spreading the love today. And there's a gift of loyalty memberships today also in the chat. Thank you so much. Kit Yahweh is with us. Hello. I don't think I've ever had a chance to say hello to you directly. Unless again, that's a name change that I don't recognize. So if you are relatively new to the Beaver Lodge and I've not seen you yet, welcome. Pull up a log. Stay a while. I hope you like it here. And Kit Dale is with us. Hi, good morning to you. Lovely to see you. Jen, my dearest, how are you? It's been so long. Happy New Year. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, you just brought me so much joy. Thank you for being here. Oh, my heart is happy. Kit Tim is here too. Hello, good sir. Wow, everybody's here. It's the gang's all here. Oh, this makes me happy. Happy. Okay, let's get into it. There's a lot going on. Let's start with the uh, less devastating stuff and move on to the bigger stuff. And the less devastating stuff, although sad, is that Team Canada lost for the third time in a row to the Czech Republic at the World Juniors. Was hoping it would be a little different because, actually, I should say Czechia, not the Czech Republic, because the name of the country has changed. Canada handled them very well in round robin play, but yesterday it was a very exciting and at the same time frustrating match, with Czechia always having the goal up, Canada managing to tie it for about fewer than 2 minutes before Czechia scored again. So always playing from behind, and then just weird things. A Canadian player getting pushed into the goaltender and getting a penalty against them, which was a bad call, and then one player hitting the post 3 times, and then on a breakaway getting slashed, which led to a penalty shot, during which it looked like he was going to score a goal, but the goaltender tripped him, which led to a second penalty shot, which is something I've never seen before. And then for some reason deciding to attempt the same move on the second penalty shot rather than switching it up. And then it just went on and on and on and on, with just the slight weird. Uh, a goal scored by Czechia with 42 seconds left or something like that, the end of the second. Then another goal scored with a few 90 seconds left in the match. And it's just, oh, God. It was just like, uh, so frustrating. So Canada will be playing for gold against Finland in what was another wild match. That one went to a shootout, and they needed 8 shots. They got to the 8 shot before Sweden won, and there was a player from Sweden, I think, had 4 different breakaways during the match that the goaltender stopped, and the penalty shot during the shootout, the goaltender stopped that one too. So that particular player from Sweden must have been particularly frustrated. It's like, what do I need to do? But at least in that case, Sweden was did get the win, whereas Canada did not. So Canada, Sweden for bronze, Finland, Czechia for gold. Uh, on the upside, however, there is a tennis tournament going on, I believe, in Australia prior to the French Open that starts on the 17th. It's called the United Cup, and it's basically nations. We send one male player, one female player. They both play a singles match, and then they play a mixed doubles match, and it's best of 3 there. And in the pool that Canada finds itself, it is playing against China and Belgium. And yesterday, I think it was, they played against China, and Victoria Mboko lost the first set, but won the next 2 rather easily. Félix Auger-Aliassime won rather easily, and uh, they got to play mixed doubles, and Canada won won the series 3-0, and Félix Auger-Aliassime, who has won a bronze medal at the Olympics with Gabriela Dabrowski, feels very positive about his collaboration with Victoria Mboko in that at the United Cup, and is hinting that it could lead to other things, which would be very wonderful for Canadian tennis. Absolutely. That would be a powerhouse mixed doubles team, especially if they decide to play together in Grand Slams as well, which is a little rare for 2 very high ranked players because they usually like to focus on the singles, particularly if they are doing a deep run. But it seems that um, they had very good vibes and got along very well together. And Felix is rather excited about it. He even said, quote, "This could be something special." That is pretty cool. Um, But yeah, he said, "We came in very focused at the start of the tournament, and hopefully we can go all the way. It was good to spend time on court together. It was our first time playing as a team, getting to know each other, how we move on court, our favorite shots and habits. I'm glad we were able to share the court, get the win, and give Canada a 3-0 start to the competition." I think I have to give a shout out to the players who came before us. We always learn from those who paved the way. Players like Genie Bouchard, Milos Raonic, and Vasek Pospisil, who just retired. Those were the guys we grew up with watching. You think if they can do it, then we can do it too. Then the Federation and everyone back home puts things in place to help us reach our potential. Tennis Canada is, as we keep on saying on the show, is very, very, very good. We believe that a lot of sports federations could take a page from what Tennis Canada has been doing and apply it to their respective sports. And of course, um, Victoria Mboko, in response, also said, "It was great to share." Oh, sorry. This is still Félix Auger-Aliassime. "It was great to share the court with Victoria. Even during doubles, I was thinking about the upcoming Olympic Games and that this could be something special. If we both continue to play good tennis and stay healthy, many things can happen. I was very happy to see her progress last year. It's always good to have strong male and female players on the circuit. They push each other to be better. It's not just Vicky. Layla is still there. Bianca is back. There are many good players both on the men's and women's sides." And then Victoria Mboko also praised Felix, saying, "It was actually my first time playing mixed doubles, so sharing the court with Felix really made my night. Overall, it was a great experience. I think he helped me a lot during the match. He carried me pretty well and made things a lot easier. So yeah, it was great." So both of them seem to be appreciating each other. And yeah, we'll see what it brings ahead. Uh, Canada's next opponent is Belgium, and if they do that, that means they win their pool and they advance to the playoffs here at the United Cup. And Canada has a pretty good team here. They could indeed go all the way. So let's keep our fingers crossed. It would be nice to get the tennis season started off with a nice bang for Team Canada. All right. In other news, kids and cubs, just going to go here before we get to the big stuff. There is some news that Canadian airlines could be forced to up their game as Ottawa allows for more competition from the Middle East. And maybe that has something to do with the deal that we struck with the United Arab Emirates here. But it looks like Ottawa will be loosening restrictions on the number of flights coming from Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates after past diplomatic spats had limited flights. So, yeah, it says aviation expert John Raddick said airlines from the Middle East are considered, quote, the envy of the world because of the services they offer, which will force Canadian airlines to do more if they want to go head to head with these foreign carriers. Quote, Canadian carriers are going to have to up the ante and up their game to be able to compete. It will push Air Canada, it'll push WestJet, and may push our friends over at Air Transat to kind of look at the service level they're offering on board the plane and the amenities and actual configurations of the airplanes because they keep on trying to cram us in with a less legroom and now seats that don't even recline, for example, which did not go over well. And it would appear that the airline company that's doing that, I think it's WestJet, has decided to, I guess, finish some of the planes that they've already started that on, but not do as many as they had originally planned because the pushback was rather forceful, we'll say. Ooh, wow. In 2010, the Canadian government refused to allow more flights from the UAE to protect Canada's industry. Air Canada at the time said airlines like Emirates pick up Canadians and take them to countries with a stopover in Dubai, and there isn't much reciprocal benefit to Canadian carriers. The UAE then retaliated by banishing Canada from a once secret logistics base Canadian troops were using for operations in Afghanistan. Ouch. And Saudi Arabia had suspended flights to Canada between 2018 and 2023 after a diplomatic dispute over Canada's condemnation of its human rights record. Global Affairs Canada publicly called out the country for arresting activists and demanding their release. And please put a pin in that, because that dynamic is going to be important to what it is that we're going to be discussing today. We had a situation where Canada took a stand on a human rights situation, made a public announcement, and it came with economic consequences. Keep that in mind. That will be relevant for a future discussion today. What it says here, Prime Minister Mark Carney is now trying to improve relations with countries in the Middle East and other parts of the world as part of his plan to diversify trade away from the US during President Donald Trump's trade war. Quote, the global economy is being rewired. Canada isn't retreating, Carney said after his visit to the UAE on November 23rd. And basically, it's just a little more than a week after the Prime Minister's trip to Abu Dhabi in November that Transport Minister Stephen McKinnon announced that the government is expanding air transport agreements to allow as many as 14 passenger flights per week from Saudi Arabia, up from 4. It says here the latest deal also includes as many as 35 passenger flights a week from the UAE, up from a maximum of 21, plus unlimited cargo flights from both countries. The reciprocal deal will allow Canadian carriers to send the same amount of flights off to the Middle East. Quote, this is all part of our ambition to continue to grow export markets, build and strengthen business ties, and have, generally speaking, more openness and more ability to deal with the rest of the world. It would also probably make travel for Canadians that have friends and family in those areas and would like to go visit them from time to time or have them come visit us. Countries including in the Middle East are trying to reach, quote, the gold standard with Canada, Raddick said. These foreign carriers, he said, want to reach an open skies agreement like Canada has with the United States for unlimited market access. He says that the government's new deal is better for the airlines from the Middle East because it allows foreign airlines to transport more Canadian travelers to hubs in places like Dubai and onto connecting flights all over the world, including the Indian subcontinent. In comparison, Canadian carriers can pick up more travelers from the Middle East to hubs in Canada and onto connecting flights to the US, which Raddick said is a smaller market. I think the foreign airlines will get a bigger piece of the pie. I think you'll see much more presence by the Middle East carriers. He also said that Canadian Airlines, quote, will be hard pressed to match the experience that airlines from the Middle East are offering at competitive economy prices because they make big bucks on premium seats, which offsets losses from economy. Quote, they'll fill up the airplane with low priced tickets for the economy section, he said, but they are looking at the premium market. In a statement to CBC News, Air Canada says it's already competitive with the best in the world. Pause for laughter. Okay. Quote, yes, Middle East airlines carry significant connecting traffic to regions such as the Indian subcontinent, but our agreement with Emirates enables us to flow traffic beyond Dubai on our Toronto-Dubai flight, wrote Peter Fitzpatrick, a spokesperson for Air Canada. In mid-November, Air Canada and Emirates announced they'd expand their 3-year strategic partnership until 2032. Both airlines agreed to market and sell tickets for the same flights and allow their customers to earn and redeem rewards through a shared loyalty program. Now, that part is very interesting. WestJet and Air Transat did not respond to a CBC News request for comment about the impact of the government's move to open up Canadian skies. The government also announced in mid-December it's allowing more flights between Canada and Albania in an effort to improve Canada's air links to the rest of the world. And that was with some contributions from Ashley Burke at CBC. Another piece of news here, Kid Subs, that is very, very interesting is that Chrystia Freeland is picking up a lot of extra jobs along the way. She is now Canada's envoy for the reconstruction in Ukraine. Looks like she's going to be taking a position with I think, Rhodes Scholarship Fund. I don't remember the full name of the organization, but she's going to be heading that. And according to the CBC, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said on Monday he had appointed former Liberal Cabinet Minister Chrystia Freeland as an economic development advisor, citing her experience in attracting investment. Quote, right now, Ukraine needs to strengthen its internal resilience, both for the sake of Ukraine's recovery if diplomacy delivers results as swiftly as possible, and to reinforce our defense if because of delays by our partners, it takes longer to bring this war to an end, Zelenskyy wrote on Twitter. Freeland, who has a Ukrainian ancestry, was deputy prime minister between 2019 and 2024. She has long been one of Canada's most vocal opponents of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In September 2025, she announced she was stepping down from cabinet and would not run as an MP in the next federal election, whenever that may occur. Prime Minister Mark Carney asked her to serve as Canada's new special representative for the reconstruction of Ukraine. Carney, in late December, announced a $2.5 billion package of loans and debt suspension for Ukraine. It brought Canada's total commitment to Ukraine in military, humanitarian, and economic assistance since Russia's 22 invasion to $22 billion. Zelenskyy said last week that after weeks of U.S.-led diplomacy, including talks with U.S. President Donald Trump in Florida, a peace agreement was 90% ready. Zelenskyy has said over the past month that Ukrainian and U.S. officials have worked on several documents related to post-war reconstruction and investment. Taras Kachka, Ukraine Deputy Prime Minister, said on Saturday that international partners have reached consensus on an economic support package of about $800 billion US for Ukraine over the next decade. The package is based on calculations by the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the European Union, and would cover damage compensation, reconstruction and economic stability, and a $200 billion growth. Freeland has roiled both the US and Russia in the past. She was one of a number of Canadian officials subjected to retaliatory sanctions imposed by Vladimir Putin's government in 2014, the year Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine. After Putin invaded Ukraine in 2022, she was a leading proponent among Ukraine's allies for freezing some Russian assets. Trump, meanwhile, has hurled a sling of insults over the years towards Freeland, ostensibly about her performance leading Canada's negotiating team as part of trade talks to replace the 1994 North American Free Trade Agreement. She did a most excellent job, and that's why Donald Trump was pissed off. The 2020 Canada-United States-Mexico agreement resulted, but Trump now disdains the deal reached in his first term as president. So, big news there. Again, Canada being a player on the global scene. And finally, the other big piece of news that we wanted to bring to you before getting into the main topic that has happened is that, according to Jim Bronskill of the Canadian Press, there has been some development on the foreign influence file. The federal government has proposed fining people and organizations up to $1 million for failing to comply with the requirements of its planned foreign influence transparency registry. Newly published draft regulations are another step towards establishing the registry, which was set out in legislation passed in 2024 as part of a package of measures to counter foreign interference. The proposed regulations define key terms and describe the information individuals and entities would have to provide when entering into arrangements with foreign principals, which are entities owned or directed by foreign governments, to influence Canadian political or government activities. Ottawa says the registry is needed because countries engaging in foreign interference to advance political goals might employ people to act on their behalf without disclosing those ties. Individuals, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and educational institutions would be among those expected to register with the federal government to help guard against such activity. The government, data in the public registry would include identifying information about individuals and entities that have entered into an arrangement, information about the foreign principal, and details of each arrangement, including its purpose and the types of influence activities involved. Let's see what else it says here. The government has tabled legislation to counter foreign meddling in all levels of Canadian elections and establish a foreign agent registry. Former CSIS Director Ward Alcock says the new bill will also give the security agency a greater ability to talk to people about issues that may come up in investigations of foreign interference. An independent commissioner yet to be named will administer the registration scheme, which is to be enforced through notices, monetary fines, and in the most serious cases, criminal penalties. Quote, by requiring specific information that would be available in a public registry, the proposed regulations would provide Canadians with a clear and accessible tool to see who is engaging in foreign influence, the nature of their activities, and any enforcement actions taken, says a federal notice accompanying the draft measures. The visibility would help reassure the public that influence activities are being monitored and addressed appropriately. The federal government expects about 1,767 registrants would submit information annually, with an additional 54 new registrants each year, the notice says. Canada has fallen behind key allies such as the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia on implementing dedicated legislation and regulations to address covert and non-transparent foreign influence, the notice adds. Quote, the proposed regulations would help close this gap by establishing a strong transparency framework aligned with the best international practices, it says. This alignment would also strengthen Canada's credibility as a trusted partner in advancing global security and protecting democratic institutions. Violations under the regime could include failure to provide information within 14 days of entering into an agreement with a foreign principal, or knowingly providing false or misleading information to the commissioner. The proposed regulations would establish administrative monetary penalties for violations ranging from $50 to $1 million. In determining a fine, the commissioner would consider such factors as the individual or organization's history of compliance with the regime, whether the violation was intentional or inadvertent, capacity to pay, and the degree of cooperation with the commission after receiving a notice of violation. The proposed regulations would allow the commissioner to enter into compliance agreements, which could mean a reduced penalty or none at all if the person or organization meets specified conditions within an agreed time frame. This is the same type of arrangement that our alleged leader of His Majesty's seemingly increasingly disloyal opposition has with Elections Canada. Yes, he violated some of the rules and then negotiated this type of compliance agreement, which resulted in no penalty at all for him if he met specific conditions. And within the agreed time frame for Mr. Poilièvre is lifetime with that compliance agreement. Public Safety Canada held consultations with key stakeholders to help inform the proposed regulations, the notice says. Participants included provincial and territorial governments, civil society organizations, diaspora communities, public interest law firms, international partners, and national security experts. Members of the public have 30 days to comment on the proposed regulations, which appear in the Canada Gazette. And kids and cubs, if you happen to be such a person who would like to make a comment, because, for example, I know Kit Bucky has some experience in diplomacy, and I haven't forgotten about you, sir. We will chat in the new year about having you on as a guest to speak about your experience, because I think the Dan fam would love that. And it's a side of politics that we don't get to hear a lot about, and that is sometimes underappreciated. So it would be nice to speak with someone that has a very uh, extensive career, I believe. You've had a very solid career in the field. And yeah, it would be a good thing to talk about and explore. We love it when a Dam Fam has things to say, and they can speak from experience, and they can elevate all of us and our knowledge. So we will be bringing you that eventually, Kits and Cubs. But here is the link right there if you wanted to go to the Gazette and make some comments on that. I don't know what happened there. Um, I think I disappeared for a second or something. My screen just went blank. Um, Please let me know, Kits and Cups, if you still see me and can hear me. Just going to take a couple seconds there because my screen went blank. I actually had to open Restream all over again. It had the window shut down on me. Okay, I heard what happened. There you go. Okay, so you guys are about 30 seconds behind. I gotta just put it in the chat here. I'm still here. I'm back. Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Ooh, that was weird. That was very weird. Uh, okay. Um, Maybe I fat fingered something by accident. I don't know. But there you go. That's I don't even have to come back to the end of the article because that was the end of the article. There. That was very strange. 'Cause it just had, there was a pop-up that said, do you want to leave the site? So, I mean, I wanted to get rid of the pop-up window, so I said yes, and then everybody disappeared. It reminds me of, oh my God, this show I saw at the National Arts Center. It was a man, I think his name was Christopher Peterson. He had a show called Icons, and he was it was technically a drag show, I guess, but the person was singing with his own voices and had a screen on the stage where he could stick his head in, and the costume changes would happen behind the screen. So I guess he had people dressing and undressing as him as he kept talking, and then the screen would open and he'd be in a whole new outfit. And there was one time where he was and he was singing with his own voice and doing imitations, and then he was doing Peggy Lee. So he comes out on the stage, and he's back to us and comes out on the stage and does a big dramatic, like, here I am. And it's like, oh, where did everybody go? And then acts like, the stage manager in back is talking to him. And it's like, what? Oh, what? Turn. And then spins around. And then, oh, there you are. It kind of felt like one of those little moments. Oh my word. Jeez. Okay. Oh man. All right. Uh, let's get into it, Kits and Cubs. Oy. Um, so it would seem that all the saber rattling from the orange blob south of us, Trompito Citolini, orange thrush, the orange menace, whatever it is that you refer to him, came to a head. A lot of buzz out there based on the reactions of Marco Rubio uh, about whether or not this was actually a Trump idea or a Rubio idea. Actually, there seems to be some debate about that. But unilaterally, without approval of any kind from Congress, without participation of any other ally, if the United States has those anymore, without sanction from the UN. So, in blatant violation of both domestic and international law. Not that international law is particularly enforceable, but that's a whole other show. Uh, the United States went into Venezuela, bombed a few things, seized is the word that we will use, Nicolás Maduro and his wife, some would say kidnapped, and then brought them to the United States, paraded them in public, not necessarily down the street, but they made sure that they got. They definitely made sure that they got. That's for sure. And but they also showed scenes, for example, of them. There's a vehicle. I'm gonna guess law enforcement vehicle. They are in it with the doors open on the side and in the back. And well, we've seen stuff like this before. It has a bit of a vanilla ISIS American Taliban aspect to it, parading their captives for the cameras. We'll give you a little. This was brought friend of the podcast, Olga Nestorova of the Honest News Network. Let's see if I got this lined up for you. If you are happening to be listening on headphones because there are sirens, this could be loud. So just to give you a time to adjust or maybe take them out and hold them closer to your ear for a couple of seconds. And 1, 2, and 3.
Good job!
So yeah, so they paraded them with the doors open in the back for a few seconds, and then stopped the van, and then closed the doors because that was probably a particularly dangerous thing to do. Unbelievable. So that happened. Hey. Words escaped me here. Reached to Olga and asked if she would be a guest again. She said, I'm in, but let's give it at least a couple of days as things change rapidly, and I hate guesstimating what we're looking at. Possible second attack on Venezuela, an attack on Iran, and possibly Greenland, plus Congress attempting to vote on limiting Trump's actions in Venezuela. So I'd say we should get a better picture by Thursday or so. I like this approach from Olga. It's one that we share. On the day that all this was happening, I was thinking, gee, maybe I should come on because this is some big news. But, as we often say during the show, that sometimes the hot take is not the best take. And often when incidents like this happen, uh, whatever fills the airwaves within the first 72 hours is frequently wrong. And the first 72 hours is usually filled by people rushing in to fill in the void, to engage in um, what American linguist George Lakoff calls preemptive framing. There is um, something that I've showed you quite a long time ago, probably during Trump's first term here, but it was a taxonomy of Trump's tweets, and says that Trump only tweets for one of four reasons. And I'll bring this to you. This is a little media and political literacy knowledge that might be handy for taking the information that's here. So, number one, preemptive framing, be the first to frame an idea. Example, the hacking of the DNC was the DNC's fault and Democrats lost by a wide margin when in fact it was one of the narrowest margins in history. And then they give an example of the tweet right down here. So preemptive framing is to be the first to say something so that your narrative is the one to which everybody responds. It also creates first exposure bias. The first thing that you see or hear is the thing against you measure all subsequent statements, and therefore the hardest position to knock people off of. The Conservative Party of Canada and Pierre Poilièvre is particularly well known for this tactic. If you remember back in the time where they had that was that car crash on the United States side of the bridge between Buffalo and Canada. I believe it was in the Buffalo area. Before anybody had declared anything, and based on one thing on Fox News, Pierre Poilievre was already making statements that this was indeed absolutely for sure a terrorist event, and starting to lay out the carpet to blame Justin Trudeau for having not done enough to protect us. And then as the story emerged and kept on emerging, there was no terrorism. It was just a really unfortunate and really weird accident. Everything happened on the US side of the border. There was absolutely nothing for Canada to do. There was absolutely no way it could be Trudeau's fault. But that didn't stop him from filling the airwaves for the first 24 to 36 hours with that. Right? Preemptive framing. And it took a lot of news and a lot of work for the narrative that he wanted to be true, for the deception that he was weaving. This all, of course, with a view to then send fundraising emails and say, "Give me your money," which again should be illegal in this country. Not asking people to give you money, but to blatantly misrepresent reality and lie, scare people, fear conger, as I call it, when it comes from the conservatives, and get people to open up their wallets. It's essentially fleecing people through fraud, is what's going on. And the Conservative Party of Canada is exceptionally good at it. Right? We can think of thousands of examples. The Liberals are about to impose capital gains on the sale of your primary residence. No, never happened. Was never in the works whatsoever. Right? A whole bunch of stuff like that. Donate to us now to stop that. Right? They do it all the time. Then the other one's diversion, to divert attention away from real issues around conflicts of interest and rushing hacking towards Meryl Streep's Golden Globe speech. For example, Meryl Streep, one of the most overrated actresses in Hollywood, blah, blah, blah. Right? Doesn't know me, but attack me. So diversion. Deflection, where you attack the messenger to change the direction. right? We've seen a lot of that. For example, Andrew Coyne had a couple of statements, and now you have all the conservative press machine, including a particular journalist from the Winnipeg Free Press, Mr. Royce Coop. Uh, Surprisingly terrible take from John Ivison. Bad take from Andrew Coyne. No, they have the correct takes. They have the correct takes. And during that whole foreign interference thing, you remember us saying on the show that we did not understand why that whole inquiry didn't have a whole component looking at our media. We're learning now why it is that we should have. Because right now you have members of the conservative media that are pro Poilièvre throwing members of the conservative media, Andrew Coyne and John Ivison, under the bus because they're not pure enough. Hmm. And then, of course, trial balloon, something that you say to test public reaction. And if it blows up too much online, well, then, oh, no, it was only a joke, is what we get. We were just spitballing. So, yeah, a very, very strong exercise of preemptive framing. And yes, Kataviji, fear is a powerful weapon, but also on the upside is if you can withstand it, fear is also a limited weapon in that if you are told, fear something, fear something, fear something, and that something doesn't actually transpire, then the ability to push that fear button subsequently doesn't really work. For example, if we talk about, for example, the whole campaign for smoking cessation was very much predicated. A lot of it was predicated on fear, right? The commercials, the lady that was, had the voice box, the warnings on the cigarettes, cigarettes can make you impotent. Ooh, men, maybe you don't want to smoke as much because, it's a fear of men for things not to be working down there. You may get lung cancer. Oh my God, I don't want that. Um, and then, you have the people, I've been smoking since I was 13 and nothing's happened yet. And the fear doesn't work, right? So it works for a time. But if the worst doesn't occur, then the impact of using that particular fear doesn't work. That's why using fear as a tactic always seems to escalate and escalate and escalate. And then we get to the point where the fear that is attempted gets, you know, to look just absurd. And that's what we're doing, like with the conservatives here. Oh, Mark Carney is absolutely destroying everything, and we're all going to hell in a handbasket. And it's like, and you see the economic data come in, or you know, you know, he's not really going to take away the carbon tax, consumer carbon tax. He's only telling you he will, and then he takes away the consumer carbon tax, and it stays gone. And so that the next time the conservatives turn around and say, well, he's only saying he's going to build a pipeline, but he's not really going to do it. Well, fewer people believe it because the last time you said, don't believe Mark Carney, he's not going to do what he says he's going to do. He did it. He proved you wrong, right? Those, like I said, the claims just get more and more ridiculous. So, for example, he won't take away the consumer carbon price. He's going to leave it there. He's only saying it now to win the election, but you'll see he'll put it back. Is a whole lot less ridiculous than, yeah, the guy who just blew a ton of political capital in British Columbia and with indigenous communities and with environmentalists just to get an MOU, not even a pipeline, just an MOU with Danielle Smith. The guy who put all of that on the line doesn't really mean it. Why would he sacrifice? Like I said, the claims just become increasingly ridiculous because you got to keep them amping the fear, right? You got to get that cortisol running, that stress, the adrenaline, the worry, the panic. And at some point, you end up being a caricature of yourself. And there are some people that will stay on that ride all the way through because you got them hooked with whatever tactics you are using. And there are other people that are just like, okay, this is just getting too weird for me. I'm getting off this bus. Ding, this is my stop. But this is what's going on there. There's a lot of preemptive framing happening here that is particularly dangerous. Uh, you are the mark, and you are being worked. So that's what we say. The first 72 hours, everything, absolutely everything needs to be taken with a grain of salt because there's information that's incorrect, information that has not been verified, deliberate misinformation, deliberate misinformation being injected into the public sphere. All of it with the goal of trying to either scare you or get you to take a firm position on something without anywhere near enough information that you need. Anywhere near enough information that you need. And of course, right, to get you to open up your wallet as well, right? Because at the end of the day, for these operations, it's always about the money. And how they can get more of your money into their coffers. And in order to accomplish this, there's a lot of tactics that are being used. And one of the tactics is to try to pretend that people can't hold two thoughts in their head at the same time, or that two things can't be true at the same time, such as the concept that Venezuelans can both at the same time be happy that Maduro is gone and not be very enthusiastic about US presence on their soil. It can be true at the same time that Maduro was a terrible person and that everybody is better off that he is gone, and that the means used to achieve that are inherently dangerous, illegal, improper, and a violation of both domestic in the United States and international law. These things can be true at the same time, and the rhetoric that they are trying to sell you depends on denying that or deflecting from that. And we've seen a lot of that over the past little while. An article here from CBC, from Thomson Reuters, actually, on CBC, says Maduro's capture sparks joy and worry among Venezuelan diaspora. This is, Thomson Reuters. Venezuelan migrants around the world erupted in celebration on Saturday following the US-led capture of President Nicolás Maduro, whose government oversaw one of the world's largest migration exoduses in recent history. Chants celebrating Maduro's capture were heard in the streets of Chile's capital, where Venezuelans gathered to share their joy. Quote, "We are free. We are all happy that the dictatorship has fallen and that we have a free country," said Katy Yanez, a Venezuelan woman who has spent the last 7 years in Chile. Quote, "My joy is too big," her compatriot Jose Gregorio said, "after so many years, after so many struggles, after so much work, today is the day of freedom." Since 2014, some 7.7 million Venezuelans, or 20% of the population, have left the country, unable to afford food or seeking better opportunities abroad, according to the UN International Organization for Migration. Neighboring Colombia has received the largest share of the diaspora, with around 2.8 million Venezuelans, followed by 1.7 million in Peru, according to the R4 platform, a group of regional NGOs assisting migrants and refugees from Venezuela set up in the UN Migration Agency. In Peru's capital Lima, dozens of Venezuelans gathered, many wrapped in their country's flag, to mark Maduro's capture. Venezuelan migrant Milagros Ortega, whose parents are still in Venezuela, said she hoped to go back. Quote, knowing that my dad was alive to see the fall of Nicolás Maduro is very emotional. I would like to see his face, she said. Peruvian President José Yeri said on Twitter that his government would facilitate the immediate return of Venezuelans regardless of their immigration status. Quote, for years, the U.S. was a haven for Venezuelans, but many were branded criminals and forced to seek refuge elsewhere during President Donald Trump's second term. In Spain, thousands of people gathered at central Madrid's Puerta del Sol and applauded as they watched Trump's press conference live. In the afternoon, groups of Venezuelans are also expected to gather to celebrate in Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires. And the United States has a very special relationship with Argentina at the moment, given the similarity of their leaders and some $40 billion in loan guarantees and stuff like that. I believe that was granted to the nation. Quote, after the initial joy, doubts about Venezuela's future also set in as Venezuelans abroad wondered what the future would hold for their country and its citizens. Andres Lozada, who has lived in Spain for 3 years and is among the 400,000 Venezuelans residing in the country according to official data, said he is struggling between worry and joy about the situation in Venezuela. Although what people are going through in Caracas is tough, I believe that beyond that there is a light that will lead us to freedom. Venezuelan security forces patrolled largely empty streets at dawn in the capital, Caracas, on Saturday. Most residents stayed home, devouring the latest information on their phones, while some went to stock up on groceries in case they need to hunker down for a prolonged period. Speaking to a local TV station in Spain, Augustin or Rodriguez, I probably pronounced Augustin in the French way. It's not Augustin, it's Agustin Rodriguez. The vice president of Venezuelan Cultural Association expressed concern about the strikes, but said they may be necessary to find a way out for the country in which there could be a return to power, alternation, where there can be a future. So, there was plenty of global reaction. Russia is claiming to be upset that this happened. Are they really? We don't know. The vice president of Venezuela just happened to be in Moscow at the time that this happened. Some people are wondering whether she had a role in helping locate where Maduro was, because everybody is rather curious about how he was found so easily and not particularly well defended. Questions. We don't know. A lot of people are wondering if the person from Venezuela, who is now technically the official opposition leader, because Maria Corina Machado, who was granted the Nobel Peace Prize, by the way, whether she would take over. And because the person in the election, Edmundo Gonzalez, I believe is his name, fled for his own safety and is currently in Spain. Will he come back? It would appear that President Trump, despite the fact that she has come out in the past in favor of him, doesn't have much regard for her. Seems that if he had his druthers, he would not let her lead the country. He doesn't like her. He just doesn't like her. I believe Yahoo News had a title. A headline says, Trump torpedoes Nobel winner at presser, says she doesn't have respect to run her country after she gushed about him. put a pin in that because in his can't trip over his dick fast enough statement on the issue, Pierre Poilièvre mentioned her. And, well, that tweet lasted about 5 hours and 15 minutes before this article from Yahoo News came out, making Pierre, well, that portion at least of Pierre's tweet, curdle like milk that was left on the counter for a day or two. His take lasted all of 5 hours before it was publicly discredited by the guy whose boots he's licking. It also makes another statement that Pierre made, saying that he urged a tariff deal with the United States in exchange for a stronger shared security partnership. Aged not well. He's quoted as saying, "We can't ignore the fact that American capitalism is the most powerful economic force in the history of the world, and they're right next door. Our goal should be to come to some sort of deal that will eliminate these tariffs, in exchange for which we offer a security partnership that will make both of our countries more safe and secure." The United States unilaterally invaded a nation in violation of both domestic and international law, claiming to want to remove an illegitimate leader who is allegedly a narco terrorist. And as soon as that was done, comments from the president himself saying that yeah, we're going to run those oil resources now. We're going to run that country now. The current leader of the opposition is not good enough. I don't know if that means that they want to install a puppet. I don't know if that means they are okay with Gonzalez returning to take the lead. But according to Trump, it seems that the United States is in charge now. According to, there's lots of mixed messages from the United States because according to a lot of other groups or people, key people, the United States is not looking to necessarily run things. Could be a situation similar to what happened in Iran back in the day when they installed the Shah in order to get oil at a lower price. Here, it doesn't seem that they want oil at a lower price. It seems that they just want to steal it because Trump has claimed that the oil is essentially theirs. And you've got Marco Rubio making statements about other nations, and that the Western Hemisphere is ours, very much in line with the national security strategy document that came out a while ago. But Pierre's take about wanting a stronger shared security partnership with a nation that invades another one and arrests its leader in order partially to get control of its oil, maybe not a good take, right? Maybe a deeper security partnership with a nation like that is not advisable. Maybe. So yeah, condemnation from nations like Cuba and Colombia and Brazil. Condemnation also from China that has interests in Venezuela. Of course, again, we're getting what's being said on the record. We don't know what's happening behind the scenes all that much. Some confusion from statements coming from the UK, and a lot of attacking of statements made by other nations, and particular the statement made by the Prime Minister of Canada. Lots of condemnation in Canada. The statement being considered or preemptively framed as weak or wishy-washy or all of it. And I read it to you here. The Prime Minister said, and he waited till 5:18 p.m. on the 3rd, so he didn't rush out to be the first. There was a little time. He allowed things to play out a little bit. And I want you to hear the Prime Minister's statement, and then I will read you the leader of the opposition statement. And you have journalists, again, like Royce Coop, comparing the statements and stating things like the Prime Minister's is wishy-washy, like this, and we need a good statement like the one that Pierre Poilièvre's, contrast the statements. You'll see that Poilièvre is a real leader, or some type of crap like that. So I want you to contrast the two statements, and you tell me which ones has the most statesmanship. So the Prime Minister. One of the first actions taken by Canada's new government in March 2025 was to impose additional sanctions on Nicolás Maduro's brutally oppressive and criminal regime, unequivocally condemning his grave breaches on international peace and security, gross and systematic human rights violations, and corruption. Canada has not recognized the illegitimate regime of Maduro since it stole the 2018 election. The Canadian government therefore welcomes the opportunity for freedom, democracy, peace, and prosperity for the Venezuelan people. Canada has long supported a peaceful, negotiated, and Venezuelan-led transition process that respects the democratic will of the Venezuelan people. In keeping with our long-standing commitment to upholding the rule of law, sovereignty, and human rights, Canada calls on all parties to respect international law. We stand by the Venezuelan people's sovereign right to decide and build their own future in a peaceful and democratic society. Canada attaches great importance to resolution of crises through multilateral engagement and is in close contact with international partners about ongoing developments. We are first and foremost ready to assist Canadians through our consular officials and our embassy in Bogota, Colombia, and will continue to support Venezuelan refugees. Right. And we will go into that. Pierre's statement. Congratulations to President Trump on successfully arresting narco-terrorist and socialist dictator Nicolás Maduro, who should live out his days in prison. The legitimate winner of the most recent Venezuelan elections, Edmundo González, should take office along with the courageous hero and voice of the Venezuelan people, Maria Corina Machado. Down with socialism, long live freedom. To you, which of these two statements seems the more statesmanlike? Now, we'll get back to Pierre in a second. But let's look at the Prime Minister's statement to look at, where things are good and, where things could have been better and certain limitations and other things. So let's parse the statement. One of the first actions taken by Canada's new government in March 2025 was to impose additional sanctions on Nicolás Maduro's brutally oppressive and criminal regime, unequivocally condemning his grave breaches of international peace and security, gross and systematic human rights violations, and corruption. Okay. That goes to the Nicolás Maduro was a dictator, and he was illegitimate, and he's gone, and that's a good thing, right? That's where you get these people online where you say, ooh, I have a problem with the way that this was done, international law. So you support a dictator regime, killing its people? It's like, no. It's a statement in favor of respecting international law. It's not a favor in support of Maduro or his regime. It comes down to it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. There's a lot of people who thought that Maduro should have been gone. But there are other ways to achieve that than violating international and domestic law in the United States, unilaterally invading a country and seizing people, removing them from the country, bringing them to your own, where you're going to try them and parading them in front of everyone. Right? You can have concerted, coordinated action that exerts more pressure, increasing pressure over time until the people who are illegitimately leading a country decide that they can't function, or it's not going to work for them, or pressure from the inside or an uprising from the inside happens and they flee or something. There are other ways to get Maduro to go than just unilaterally bombing a few things coming in and just up and lifting them in the middle of the night, breaking every law in the book in the process. But the people who want to preemptively frame that don't want you to believe that those options exist, right? It's either doing that this way or you support a tyrannical, socialist, and illegitimate regime that treats its people terribly. and is allegedly led by a narco-terrorist. Allegedly. Right? Those are your only two options. The world is a very, very limited place with extremely limited possibilities. And there's only two of them. And one is this is a good thing. And the other one is you're a bad person if you object to the manner in which this was done. Again, a lot of people are happy Maduro's gone. A lot of people have some very serious questions about how it was done. Many people are actually frightened about the way it was done. Both can be true at the same time. But this here ends, this is meant to pre-butt those types of statements that Canada is somehow supportive of Maduro. And that this particular government, Mark Carney, is particularly supportive of Maduro. That's why he's saying Canada's new government imposed sanctions was one of our first actions. That's how we set the tone. Second sentence, Canada has not recognized the illegitimate regime of Maduro since it stole the 28 election. So that is to pre-butt. Oh, liberals always support these dictators. Liberals always support this. Liberals support that. Mark Carney is a dictator himself. And that type of stuff. No. It has been Canada's position since 2018 to not recognize this regime. So since 2018, the Liberal Party of Canada, who's formed the government, has not recognized the regime. And in 2025, when the current Prime Minister basically became Prime Minister, additional sanctions were imposed. We are not pro-Maduro in any way, shape, or form. Third sentence, the Canadian government therefore welcomes the opportunity for freedom, democracy, peace, and prosperity for the Venezuelan people. Now that he's gone, there's an opportunity to return to freedom and democracy, peace, and prosperity. We welcome that. You will notice that in that paragraph, there is no condemnation of the manner in which it came about, that the opportunity for freedom, democracy, peace, and prosperity for the Venezuelan people came about. There is also no support for the manner in which that opportunity arose. Merely a statement about the fact that the opportunity has arisen. This is the part that had a lot of people screaming and crying, oh, it's wishy-washy, take a stand. Like this, why aren't you mentioning the US? Why didn't you say what the US did was illegal? Why didn't you? We don't need to do that. Remember that thing I said to put a pin in it on the previous story with regard to airlines? Where we took a stand against human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia, and then we were denied access to a military base in Afghanistan. It came with some pretty important consequences. On this show, we keep on telling you, one of the mistakes a lot of people do, and again, this is a preemptive framing thing, is to look to politics for morality. Nations have no friends, and nations have no morals. They only have interests when we're talking about global affairs. Yes, we have values and things that we say like this, but there are no morals. There are no friends. There are alliances that come and go, sometimes fray, and there are interests. That's what we have. So the question then becomes is it in our interest as Canada, given our current relationship with the United States, to be the first to rush out to essentially virtue signal? Because everybody knows it's the United States. They're bragging about it. Everybody knows it's a violation. Well, anybody who will admit it, but even those who won't admit it, who are working so hard not to admit it, know that's why they're working so hard not to admit it, that this is a violation of both domestic law in the United States and international law. Why do we need, as Canada, to be putting out a statement saying, "This is a terrible violation of the international law by the United States. We condemn this. United States, bad, 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 bad." What's in it for us to do that? Now, again, people go, "Oh, well, it's the moral thing to do. You got to call these things out." Yes, but the world of diplomacy and real politics doesn't mean that you always rush to a mic so that people all around the world can see you wagging your finger. Oh, bad, bad, bad. And considering how Donald Trump lost whatever's left of his syphilitic mind based on a TV commercial featuring the voice of Ronald Reagan that Doug Ford played in the United States. Does anyone really, anybody who is thinking and playing the long game, really believe that had Mark Carney gone out in front of a mic or in this press release and condemned the United States for their unilateral, unlawful action, that would have worked out for us positively in any way? Do you really? Doing the thing that publicly feels good. These are the same people that turn around and say, "Oh, elbows down," because every time we see Donald Trump, we don't punch him directly in the face for the whole world to see. If you're always playing with your elbows up and punching everything you see in the face, you end up in the penalty box a lot. And your team ends up losing the match. Elbows up, yes. But not stupidly. Not 100% of the time, not on every occasion, not gratuitously, not for clicks, not to get the approval. Strategically, in your own best interests, at very specifically chosen times, to generate a particular effect, knowing full well there could be consequences that hopefully you've pre-prepared for and have the ability to handle, that you've had the time to consider beforehand the sacrifice that taking that public stand may require from you in other fronts, either politically, economically, in terms of mobility. Oh, you said that about us here. Now you guys need visas. Whatever it can be. Do we really believe these people that are making these statements? They're saying it's not firm enough, it's not strong enough. Do they really believe that there would be no retaliation against us? And then again, yes, we get to that fine line. Well, if you never say anything when it's time to say anything, because you're afraid of what's going to happen to you, well, that's good people saying nothing when bad things happen. And that's a terrible thing. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But that is if your strategy is to say nothing and also do nothing. If you're just going to put your head down and sort of whistle and look at the ground and as things are happening, and it's like, maybe if I make myself small, nobody will notice. But does anyone actually believe that Canada would do that either? That we're not working behind the scenes with other nations? Right? That there's nothing that we're doing diplomatically? A little hush hush and quiet for now. So many people want that big, dramatic, cinematic moment where you step to the podium and you slam down on it and say, Donald Trump is a terrible human being. Yeah, that would feel good for about 0.2 seconds. And then what? Sometimes your statements need to be careful, thoughtful, selectively worded, and very considered. Sometimes, yes, You need to take a big stand, like when the Prime Minister stood up, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau stood up in the House of the Commons and said, we have enough evidence of what's going on in India, and called them out. Sometimes you need to do that. That came with a lot of consequences, didn't it? There is no way you make a statement like those who are calling this one wishy-washy, the one that they would have preferred. There's no way you can make a statement with that like that without having consequences fall upon you. There's a lot more going on than just the public statement. And this is why you probably want to wait several days. In this case, it might even take weeks before we start to seeing a full picture of what it is Canada's full stance on this is going to be. Second paragraph. Canada has long supported a peaceful, negotiated, and Venezuelan-led transition process that respects the democratic will of the Venezuelan people. This sentence probably has Pierre Poilièvre style conservatives howling with rage. The specific words, Venezuelan-led transition process. If they are in the back pocket for Trump, they don't like that at all. At all. And I hope I have not disappeared again from the screen. Please tell me I've not disappeared again from the screen. Oh my God. Jeez. Having a rough day here. This time the screensaver came on and that view, so hopefully that didn't cut the camera off, nor the audio. But I'm back. All right. Okay, thank you, Kit Plain. Thank you. Okay, at least I know that when that happens, I don't have to panic anymore. Thanks. Hopefully you could still hear me too. Perfect. Thank you. Oh, thank you, kids. Okay, now I know. You feed me some information, I factor it in, we're all good. Let's keep going. All right. Then, keeping with our longstanding commitment to upholding the rule of law, sovereignty, and human rights, Canada calls on all parties to respect international law. Kind of late for that now, isn't it? I'm sorry. I should not be laughing because this is very serious. But we are dealing with a person, particularly on the United States side, not particularly keen to respecting international law, not particularly committed to international law, never has been, never will be, has never gave us any inclination whatsoever that they could be, that there's any situation that could arise that would make them moderately inclined to have a commitment to upholding the rule of law. So, yeah, it is. This is a rather futile and useless statement in realpolitik, but also in realpolitik, it's a statement that needs to be said, if only for form. But we are dealing with people that never had any intent at all, from the word go, of respecting international law. So to call on them to do something that they've never done before, have never indicated any intention to doing, and certainly now that this has happened, don't have any intention whatsoever of doing. Kind of a waste of breath and bandwidth, but if it's not there, right, it adds noise to your message that has people condemning you from the other side. You will notice that Pierre's statement didn't have anything in it with regard to respecting international law. Let's continue. We stand by the Venezuelan people's sovereign right to decide and build their own future in a peaceful and democratic society. Same thing there with democratic will of the Venezuelan people. That will make a lot of conservatives scream and yell because the ones that are in the pocket of Trump, really would like perhaps the United States to control the oil in Venezuela. Maybe they're just fine with that. They're down with that. Canada attaches great importance to resolution of crises through multilateral engagement and is in close contact with international partners about ongoing developments. We are first and foremost ready to assist Canadians through our consular officials and our embassy in Bogota, Colombia, and will continue to support the Venezuelan refugees. There we have, some statements of our values, and in the previous paragraph too, some statements of Canadian values there. Yes, overall, uh, unsatisfying for those who would like to see a slapdown of the United States, but when we are talking about our interests, this very carefully worded statement that welcomes the opportunity for transition without condemning or supporting how that opportunity came about is probably the best that we could do at the moment, and probably the most strategic, and the one that leaves the door open for us to be able to um, be nimble in as many directions as possible following it. For example, being called in, perhaps, as an honest broker to help resolve things or negotiate things later on, right? There, you do not want to come out with your opening statement and severely limit your future opportunities to be impactful. This statement allows us to do that, right? You have to be a realist. Prime Minister keeps on saying, yes, I guess now I'm a politician, but first and foremost, I'm a pragmatist. Making types of statements, projecting values, essentially virtue signaling. The thing that the Conservatives said that they hated when Prime Minister Justin Trudeau did it, they're demanding it now. And Conservatives are demanding it on one side, and people who are more on the left are also demanding it on another side. We have the leader of the NDP, Don Davies, who had a few things to say about this as well. Um, Again, often making some good points along the way. UN Charter Article 2, I'm going to say Article 2, Paragraph 4, I'm going to say. I'm not sure what the 4 in parenthesis, if it means paragraph. Maybe Kit Bucky can help me with that because given his experience, uh, it's a 2 with a 4 in parentheses next to it. So I'm not sure if that's Article 2, Paragraph 4. But let's say for the sake of this Article 2, Paragraph 4. And if I need to be corrected, I'm sure that will happen. Yeah, what's the says UN Charter Article 2, Paragraph 4, a core principle of international law. It prohibits all states from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any other state, banning war and coercion except self-defense or UN Security Council authorization. The U.S. attack on Venezuela is neither an act of self-defense nor does it have UN Security Council authorization. It is therefore totally illegal and a breach of the UN covenants the U.S. has agreed to uphold as a member state. Trump's declaration that U.S. oil companies are going to take over Venezuelan oil production reveals the true motive of this attack: seizure of the largest oil reserves in the world. Trump apologists can spin it all they want, but this is clearly illegal, hypocritical, and dangerous. Maybe this reveals why Trump has been so hesitant to hold Putin to account for his invasion of Ukraine. The U.S. can have no credibility upholding international law and the rights of nations when it blatantly violates those principles itself. There's a lot in there that is absolutely true. And it is also true that Donald Trump doesn't give two shits about that. So, right? You are, how do I put it? He is correct on the legalities of it, but the players have decided that the legalities don't matter. They just don't matter to the players involved. The reality on the ground. Then, Don Davies, if true, because this was earlier, he saw a tweet and it says that US AH-64 Apache attack helicopters are seen firing machine guns over Caracas. And he says, if true, this is a flagrant breach of international law and the rules-based system the U.S. claims to support. Canada must strongly condemn it and call for the immediate cessation of aggression by the U.S. against the sovereign state of Venezuela. And what do you think would happen, Mr. Davies, if we did that? This is the call for virtue signaling. This is the call for virtue signaling. Canada, this is a terrible thing. Do the Boy Scout thing, rush to a microphone, say it's terrible, wag your finger. Condemn it. Call for the immediate cessation of aggression by the U.S. Really? We've called for the immediate cessation of aggressive behavior by the U.S. towards us. You know, the nation that stated that they want to annex us and make us the 51st state, that's the nation about which the prime minister said during his election campaign they want to break us so that they can own us. How well has that worked out for us, asking the United States to stop its cessation of aggression, to ask for an immediate cessation of aggression from the United States upon us? How well has that worked for us, Mr. Davies, when it was in our own interests to actually publicly ask for it for ourselves? How well did that work for us? Did Donald Trump in the United States turn around and say, oh my God, it's so terrible what we're doing to Canada. We just realized, oh, well, we're so sorry. We'll just stop. Again, just maybe this political party, given where it sits on the political spectrum, needs to say these things publicly again for form. But you're basically asking us to commit some form of self-harm. I'm not sure that may be it might be the moral move. It might be the move that would provide some of us, again, with 0.2 seconds of catharsis. Yeah, we told them. Look how good we are. Might give us a sense of smugness and superiority, but is it in our long-term strategic best interest to rush out and take that particular stand? Our leaders in Canada, first and foremost, must do what's in our best interests. That's why we elect them. And that's one of the main reasons for which you don't look to politics to morality, because sometimes our own self-interests are served by bad things that happen elsewhere. And sometimes they are not served by good things that happen elsewhere. And sometimes they are not served by being the first one or among the first one out to take a stand. And we learned that with the tariffs, didn't we? When China and Canada were pretty much the only nations to establish counter tariffs, and we did so, hoping that the rest of the world would follow us. And they didn't, because they had their own interests, and they were afraid that if they did that, things would hit them harder. We had CUSMA. They didn't. So they didn't apply retaliatory tariffs. And we stuck our neck out and we did that. And well, did that serve us? For a little bit, but then we had to let them go, because basically tariffing ourselves in order to say, hey, take that, United States, probably not the best economic decision overall. Again, if we're looking at our own interests, there are many people out there that want you to believe that these things are simple. The solutions are simple. Just do the moral thing. Doing the moral thing also comes with consequences. They don't tell you that part. So, purely selfishly, on the upside for Canadian democracy, you have the Democrats going at it again. They're at each other's throats online. The Conservatives are painting the New Democrats as people who love a good tyrant, especially if he's a socialist tyrant, right? Hence of Pierre Poilièvre's statement at the end of his thing. Down with socialism. Long live freedom. Because Pierre's preemptive framing is to look at this as a battle against evil socialism. It's a terrible thing. Socialism is inherently bad. Well, you know, depending on, of course, that depends on what of socialism you choose to. And of course, then in these instances, how would I put it? A lot of people, particularly on the conservative side, like to have fun with words, create new definitions for words that already have definitions. The manner in which they talk about socialism or communism or Marxism, whatever it is not exactly what it is historically. No. Have a little moment here of Mr. Grizzly from his Grizzly Growl yesterday here for you, and see what he has to say. Oh, hold on, let's take care of the captions there. There you go.
About putting an end to socialism. Socialism isn't a bad thing, by the way. Socialism is when the workers own the means of production. So everybody benefits and not just a few. Social democracies such as Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland all have very good social safety nets. Yes, they pay high taxes, but they get very good quality of life in exchange for it. Pierre Poilièvre doesn't believe in that sort of thing, which is why his idea behind affordability is ending all of the things that have actually made your life more affordable. $10 a day daycare, school lunch programs for children, pharmacare, dental care. You know damn well he would be happy to end universal health care and just go straight to a private, for-profit insurance model like in the United States of America. He is a Trump-loving sycophant. And if he were prime minister, we would all pay dearly for it.
Mr. Grizzly. There. Sharing his wisdom with us. Now we get to Pierre's statement. Oh boy. This one is something else. So, Pierre, now the Prime Minister came up with his statement at 5:38 in the afternoon. Pierre was out at 8:36 in the morning with his. This is here the very definition of fools rush in. With almost no information. And by the way, Monsieur Poilièvre, considering the family into which you married, there might be some inherent level of conflict at play here. And today would be a most excellent day for you to remove any doubt about, to take a step to remove any doubt about any potential conflicts you have, about any pronouncements you make on the situation in Venezuela by proactively, voluntarily, and willingly submitting yourself to the secured compartmentalized information level security clearance screening. Sir, today would be a most excellent day for you to do this because as a citizen sitting here, I'm wondering how the hell you could have such a firm and smugly confident take at 8:36 in the morning, given that you have no SCI level security clearance and therefore no access to any very critical information that you might need in order to be able to make a pronouncement on this subject. Sir, my wife once fled Venezuela because it was terrible there. While that is awful for your wife's family that happened and that they did need to flee, is wholly irrelevant and immaterial when it comes to international politics. Sir, any comment that you make cannot be anything other than ill-informed, or at least not informed to the best possible ability that it could be in this country, because you are the only leader of a federal political party who has not yet submitted himself to obtain your secret compartmentalized information level security clearance. Not top secret, not the one you automatically get when you become a cabinet minister. Well, I shouldn't say automatically get, but not the one you need to be a member of parliament or to be a cabinet minister, the one that allows you to go into a skiff. You don't have that. You have never had that. Ever. You've never had that. The opportunity had never been granted to you prior to recently to have that. I will repeat that for the anti-everythings who hate watch us. Pierre has never, ever, ever, ever had the level of security clearance needed to see a document that would obligate you to go into a skiff in order to read it. He has never had it. Perhaps he should, because if what is going on in the country of birth of his wife and the family that he married into isn't enough to compel him to get it, I do not know what will. It would seem that at this particular moment, Pierre would have a very personal interest in wanting to have access to that information so he could know what was going on the ground for real. But no talk of that from him. No talk of that from him. Congratulations to President Trump on successfully arresting narco-terrorist and socialist dictator Nicolás Maduro, who should live out his days in prison. Already judge, jury, and executioner, I see. Also, celebrating the actions of a man who unilaterally went into a country with no international cooperation in violation of both domestic and international law to seize other human beings, remove them from their country, and bring them elsewhere. And then announcing that U.S. companies will be doing what they need to do to take control of those oil assets. Let's see, is there any other nation in the global neighborhood that Donald Trump has threatened somehow, like let's say with annexation or wanting to make them their cherished, allegedly 51st state, that also happens to have oil. That also happens to have oil that is very similar to the type of oil that exists in Venezuela. Has there, is there any other nation that has been the subject of some antagonism of that kind? Mr. Poilièvre, who now represents a seat in the electoral district of Battle River Crowfoot, which happens to be in Alberta. Is there anything about Alberta that is somewhat similar to Venezuela? Alberta, which is still within a nation that the person who did this in Venezuela threatened to annex. Is there any similarities whatsoever? Why would you celebrate this? Why would you offer congratulations to a man who threatened to annex your country for going into another country and essentially, for all intents and purposes, seizing an asset very similar to one that exists in the country here that he threatened to annex? Regular, well intentioned, good faith, thinking people that have are not allergic to facts, logic, rationality, rigor, method, and reason would see a few parallels there and might, using a little common sense, come to the conclusion that what happened in Venezuela could be recreated in other places that have a similar resource and that have offered resistance to an invitation to be anschlossed. He represents a riding in Alberta and is celebrating a foreign nation invading another one to seize control of its oil assets. Again, oil that is very similar to the type of oil we have here. He sees no problem with what he said. Also, should it come to pass that the United States does seize control of those oil assets, which is not a given because there are certain realities. For example, you know, uh, our pipelines here in Canada flow north to south only in one direction. And yes, there are some places on the Gulf Coast, but there's also some refineries in the Midwest. The oil that they bring in, if they wanted to um, uh, send it through the pipelines, if they were not able to get it directly to the refineries, like if they wanted to get them the one in the Midwest, uh, the oil they would have to put it in a pipeline higher up than where those refineries are, so that the oil can get there. There is um, also the possibility that nobody's considering that, like I mentioned, if two things can be true at the same time, that the Venezuelans are glad that Maduro is gone, but definitely are not keen on exchanging one dictator for another and having their country and their assets seized and controlled by another one. There's a possibility for an insurgency, and we all know that the United States might be good at invasions, but they're not particularly good with insurgencies. There's a long track record of that. Why would you cheer that on? Why would you appear to welcome the concept of a nation unilaterally against international law invading another one in order to not only seize their leader, which I'm sure Pierre would be very happy if it happened, and that's a whole other kettle of fish, publicly hoping that the leader of your own nation would be removed from the country in a manner that Maduro was removed from Venezuela, and then losing control of your oil assets. Danielle Smith has been conspicuously quiet, by the way, but not Pierre. Not Pierre. Pierre's celebrating, offering congratulations. Then, of course, he calls for the legitimate winner of the most recent Venezuelan elections, Edmundo Gonzalez, to take office along with the courageous hero and voice of the Venezuelan people, Maria Corina Machado, who Trump doesn't like. So, great. Down with socialism, because everything needs to be framed in terms of socialism bad. Long live freedom. Nothing about this is freedom. I mean, yes, it could be a happy consequence for the Venezuelan people that Maduro is gone, but Donald Trump didn't do this to bring freedom to the Venezuelans. As Mr. Grizzly pointed out, and as a lot of other people pointed out, he did it for the oil and perhaps a distraction from the Epstein files not being fully released. And distractions maybe from a couple of other things that are going on in the United States, like all the losses electorally, or the fact that the economy is tanking. With this tweet, it is very, 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 very likely that Pierre Poilièvre just handed Mark Carney the majority he needs. Because I am certain, absolutely certain, that there must be at least one member of the Conservative Party of Canada caucus who is actually a conservative, a real one. Maybe even a progressive conservative, but a real one. Who's probably not down with celebrating a man who has threatened to annex us, seizing oil similar to the oil that we have in another nation, unilaterally and in violation of international and domestic law. I'm sure that there's got to be at least one who's just not down with that. So congratulations, sir, on hopefully having made yourself completely and utterly more irrelevant than you are. Great job. That'll help you in the leadership review. Treacherous, disloyal, and untrustworthy. I will repeat, treacherous, disloyal, and untrustworthy. And he's not the only one that's in it. You got the whole machine, the Marios and the Wyatts and all of them, all supporting this. Stephen Lecce of the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party had a curious take on that. Certain members of the BC Conservative Party and, of course, BC One had some very curious takes on that. So we have more than one political party, or members of more than one political party in the nation, if we count federal and provincial, seemingly celebrating this. We have certain members in the media, like I mentioned, Mr. Royce Coop, running major interference for both Pierre and Trump on this. And we have Pierre having lost Andrew Coyne and Bruce Anderson and even John Ivison of the Kits and Cubs. The conservative press, normally in Pierre's camp, or frequently in Pierre's camp, just leaving him. Just on the memes going around, coming from the United States, saying, Canada, you're next. John Ivison and Royce Coop got into it a little bit on online because, well, you know, again, a lot of people are, I guess, wanting to be the story. But Royce Coop, who allegedly writes for the Winnipeg Sun, of course. So I think I said Winnipeg Free Press earlier. Winnipeg, so gentle correction on myself. Takes the final sentence of the Prime Minister's statement. Canada attaches great importance to resolution of crises through multilateral engagement and is in close contact with international partners about ongoing developments. We are first and foremost ready to assist Canadians through our consular officials and our embassy in Bogota, Colombia, and will continue to support Venezuelan refugees. He says, agree or disagree, yesterday both Pierre Poilièvre and Don Davies took firm stances on Venezuela and Maduro. In a democracy, politics should provide clear, responsible positions for voters to choose between. That's what Poilièvre and Davies did. In contrast, Carney and Anand tried to both sides the issue, sending out statements that failed to take a clear position. It was embarrassing. Voters are left wondering, what does Carney really think? Or does he have genuine views on anything other than this let's try that again. Voters are left wondering, what does Carney really think? Or does he have genuine views on anything other than his and the Liberal Party's success? Shouldn't we expect more from the Prime Minister of Canada? Pierre Poilièvre and Don Davies did not both take firm stances on Venezuela and Maduro. I read their comments. Pierre Poilièvre celebrated Trump, said that Gonzalez should be the leader again and down with socialism. He even mentioned Maduro. And what he took a firm stance is on celebrating Trump's action. Don Davies didn't take a firm stance on Venezuela or Maduro. Don Davies took a firm stance in support of respecting international law. So Mr. Royce Coop does not have the best reading comprehension level. But then again, when your paycheck depends on you being blind so that you cannot see, these are the takes you get. In a democracy, politicians should, there's a terrible word to be using, provide clear, responsible positions for voters to choose between. That's what Poilièvre and Davies did. I would prefer that in a democracy, our leaders provide thoughtful, nuanced, and considered positions that deal with the world as it is rather than principled, responsible, black and white, clear positions, because those tend to be extremely limited. And these tend to be positions that do not recognize the full extent of the picture. They don't capture the color and the texture and the flavor of what is going on. And those decisions tend to live in the world of should rather than the world of is. What we should expect from the Prime Minister of Canada is not to take a clear, firm, black and white statement when a situation requires a concerted, nuanced one. What we should expect from the Prime Minister of Canada is that any statement that they make is first and foremost a statement that is in our interests, and hopefully a statement that does not result in additional damage to us or in us becoming a target. This Royce Coupe person is not a serious person. John Ivison took Royce's comments and said, "I think siding with Donald Trump at this moment in the history of our planet is a pretty dumb move for any Canadian politician." Uh-huh. Indeed. Absolutely indeed. People are referring to John Ivison as a liberal shill now, which is kind of funny because there's no universe in which John Ivison is a liberal shill. And like the fact that he said, "I think siding with Donald Trump at this moment in the history of our planet is a pretty dumb move for any Canadian politician," an objectively true statement that has been proven true and verified again and again and again. Royce Coupe didn't like that. Surprisingly bad take from Ivison. "It's obvious Canada is safer and better off without a Western Hemisphere country completely infiltrated by China, Russia, and the drug cartels. That's true no matter who the US president is." Blah, 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 blah. So the disloyal, treacherous, and untrustworthy CPC hate and rage machine will throw anyone and everyone under the bus in a heartbeat for not being pure enough. These are extremely dangerous people. They're hell-bent on selling us all out. The threat is within. It's well funded. And, again, with the United States, right, got Lindsey Graham going, "You just wait for Cuba. Their days are numbered." Cuba threatened. Also threatened Greenland. Stephen Miller's wife put out this map of Greenland all covered in United States colors. If you remember, Trump said, "We need Greenland for national security." Iran, not necessarily a friend or an ally, but they're being threatened a lot lately. In fact, there's a whole bunch of countries that have been threatened: Venezuela, Cuba, Greenland, Iran, Colombia, Mexico. Might be time for Canada to place a couple of phone calls and see if there might be some talk about some coordinated action and resistance, given that we're all apparently on the target list for who's next. Now, you will notice that Donald Trump started with Venezuela because, well, Donald Trump likes the easy fight. Greenland, is part of NATO. We're talking Denmark here. That might be a little trickier. So are we. And we've shown IQ47 several times now that we are going to push back. And, well, maybe that's why he went after Venezuela first. Because it was the one deemed least able to provide initial resistance. But there's a difference between this operation and then sending people in to seize control of the assets. Now, the other part that's a threat to us is if they do successfully seize those assets and are able to get Venezuelan oil into the U.S. refineries, well, then that kind of displaces the need for ours, doesn't it? So Pierre is not only celebrating a man who threatened to annex us and clearly would like to steal oil. But by celebrating this action, even if the United States doesn't take that course of action here in Canada, is technically still supporting and cheering on an action that could lead to there no longer being a market, at least in the United States, for our oil. And you've got some of his sycophants online going, it's like the United States is our best customer. Yeah, but have you not been paying attention that the United States has said that we have nothing that they need, that the United States no longer wants to be our best customer? We've seen the US take some action here and also some action making deals with Belarus with regard to potash. Another thing that they really do need from us that they say that they do not need, that they are trying to find another source. Now, whether or not there is enough potash that is available for export from Belarus to come to the United States and meet all their needs, that's a whole other question. How long it would take to make those repairs, to make any repairs needed to the oil industry in Venezuela and to gear it up in order to send that oil. There might be a certain amount of time if that was the plan. And again, if there's an insurgency in Venezuela for any attempt to do that, well, that would make things a whole lot more tricky and make things take longer. But we shouldn't take comfort in that. Says, oh, well, if that was to happen, it wouldn't happen for a couple of years anyway. We have some decisions to make because sands are shifting rather rapidly. And, all the reasons that we're being given for this. This is about illegitimacy. We need to remove an illegitimate government. Yeah, are we talking about the same United States that just sanctioned Brazil for trying to hold its former leader legally responsible for having staged a coup so that he could illegitimately remain in power? Oh, I guess it can't be that now, could it? Well, it's about the drugs. Of course, we just witnessed the United States grant a pardon to the former leader of Honduras, who is known to have dealt in hundreds of tons of drugs. So it can't be that. Oh, it's about the gang stuff. Yeah, it's that all that those drugs are being run by gangs, and the Maduro is like leading these gangs. He's a narco terrorist. But isn't Donald Trump about to receive at the White House the leader of the Philippines, who is also known to be, or at least alleged to have been, dealing with gang? So it can't be about those things now, could it be? It's almost like all the pretense was merely that, pretense. All the reasons, the moral reasons, right? We must protect ourselves from these drugs. We must remove an illegitimate tyrant who's doing terrible things to people. We need to stop those gangs. They don't hold up to logic and scrutiny. There has been no cogent or coherent rationale given on the public record for why which this has been done, which again leads people to suggest it's because, well, he wants oil for free. He doesn't want trade. He just wants to steal it and distract from Epstein and everything else that's going on, because he's not doing very well. He wants to be a wartime president. The president of peace now wants to be a wartime president because, well, midterms are coming and this is a very, very fluid, dangerous, disconcerting situation. We have to We can't rush in. We don't have the luxury of being fools who rush in. We don't have the luxury of entering the room smugly and confidently, chin up, ass out on this one. This is not a good situation. This is not a situation that requires a hot take. This is not a situation that demands trying to win every damn nanosecond. It was never about illegitimacy. It was never about drugs. It was never about gangs. The Premier of Greenland, we have been a close and loyal friend to the United States for generations. We have stood shoulder to shoulder in difficult times. We have taken responsibility for security in the North Atlantic and not least for North America. That is what true friends do. Precisely for that reason, the current and repeated rhetoric coming from the United States is entirely unacceptable. When the President of the United States speaks of, quote, needing Greenland and links this to Venezuela and military intervention, it is not only wrong, it is disrespectful. Our country is not an object in great power rhetoric. We are a people, a country, a democracy that must be respected, especially by close and loyal friends. We are part of NATO, and we are fully aware of our country's strategic location. We also understand that our security depends on good friends and strong alliances. In that context, a respectful and loyal relationship with the United States is very important. That has been the case for decades. But alliances are built on trust, and trust requires respect. Threats, pressure, and talks of annexation have no place between friends. That is not how one speaks to allow a people. That is not how one speaks to a people who have repeatedly demonstrated responsibility, stability, and loyalty. Enough is enough. No more pressure, no more insinuations, no more fantasies of annexation. We are open to dialogue, we are open to conversations, but they must take place through the proper channels and in full respect of international law. And the proper channels are not random and disrespectful posts on social media. Greenland is our home and our territory, and it will remain so. Conservative MP, Kerry Diot. As a Canadian, I find post embarrassing. Contrast this to Pierre Poilièvre's post on Venezuela, what we just have. And Mr. Diot, Kerry Diot, by the way, who is the MP for Edmonton Griesbach, longtime journalist, he claims. You find Carney's post embarrassing. Mr. Diot, we find you embarrassing for trying to gaslight us into buying that rerun Poilièvre's treacherous and disloyal anyway provides a positive contrast. Bruce Anderson. Poilièvre promised to make Canada the freest country in the world. What does freedom mean to him? That's a good question. If Putin, he writes, if Putin or Xi removed Maduro and said they would be running Venezuela for a while and selling Venezuela oil to make profits from it, would you celebrate this as a great step for freedom? Of course not. Which begs the question, why did Pierre Poilièvre quickly past some fairly obvious questions to declare that Trump doing this was a cause for celebration and appreciation for the US president? The origins of the term fog of war are subject of debate, but the concept, if not the exact wording, is generally attributed to an unfinished book written about 200 years ago by Karl von Clausewitz. The common usage today is as a warning against interpreting events too quickly with incomplete information and lack of security clearance. As political leaders around the world observed and gathered information about what exactly the US was doing in Venezuela, Canada's official opposition leader decided he'd seen enough pretty early in the day. Again, it's that car on the bridge. Exactly the same. The variables are different, but the constants are exactly the same. He never learns a damn thing. At about 9:30 Eastern Time, Poilièvre congratulated Trump on removing Maduro, said he should spend the rest of his life in prison, and declared who should take office in Venezuela. He signed off with "Down with socialism, long live freedom." The time that I gave you is probably time where he was, because it said it was an hour earlier than that. So he was probably maybe in another time zone at the time that he made that statement. The whole statement was premature and foolhardy. If Poilièvre thought he was embracing an ally or even just a stalwart defender of the rights of people to self-determine, Trump and his fellow travelers made that a laughable proposition, and quickly. The US president has since made it clear over and over that the move was really about control over Venezuelan oil and that he was not interested in input on who should run the country. America should run the country with some cloudy combination of Vance and Rubio holding the reins, at least for the foreseeable future. The business of restoring democracy? Somewhere down the priority list after installing a regime to control the petroleum reserves. Far from satiating his hunger for territorial expansion, the events in Venezuela appear to have emboldened Trump. In the last 24 hours, he has suggested that he intends some sort of action in Cuba, Greenland, and possibly Colombia. Like Poilièvre, Trump may dislike socialism, but his interest can hardly be described as a passion for freedom. Trump has routinely denounced the UN, ignored America's undertakings as a NATO member, and broke with past practice of consulting with allies to establish a multi-state support for engagement on foreign soil. In America, Democrats and congressional Republicans have been sluggish in mounting a response to Trump's action. In the first hours, it was simply easier to cheer the end of a brutal dictator and narco-terrorist. Quote. But as Trump's ambitions became more elaborate, as one cringe-worthy social media post followed another, the scale of the problem Trump has dropped on the table became clearer, and Canada's and other national leaders prepare to meet in Paris this week to talk about the Russia-Ukraine situation. Prime Minister will be going. They now have to come to grips with what to do if Trump follows through on his next stated territorial ambitions. There's no subtlety to what Trump is doing. He's not looking for more narco-terrorists. He's not looking to end socialism. He's flexing American military muscle, telling the world America will do what it wants to achieve political and economic ends, quote, because we can. This is a time when the rest of the world needs to try all the harder to find a common ground. Unless and until America reasserts an independence rule for Congress and the judicial system, the rest of the world is faced with an America we've never seen before, run by a politician the likes of which we've never seen before. Canada will need to stand by our NATO allies and will want to count on our NATO allies to stand with us. A sound strategy doesn't necessarily start with expressions of outrage. There's a lot at stake, and people are right to expect a duty of care more than searing social media comments. But they would also expect something more carefully considered from a man who believes he should be Canada's next Prime Minister. There's Bruce Anderson. And then Andrew Coyne, who had a statement that was rather chilling, because Andrew Coyne basically came out and said, I'll put it up here for you, kids and cubs, so you can see it for yourself. Hopefully this is the right one. Nope. Come on. There it is. Sorry, I was looking on Twitter and it was on Facebook instead. So let's make this a little bigger. Whoops. Too much. There it is. Explicitly aligning Conservative Party with Trumpian lawlessness. That's all Coyne had to say. And the chilling part of it is the there it is portion of it. Because some people saw that and said, oh, it looks like Coyne is surprised. I don't get surprise from that. I get that Andrew Coyne totally expected that would be Pierre Poilièvre's reaction and was neither shocked nor surprised that it came. So, having lost Anderson, having lost Ivison, and having lost Coyne, and Coyne basically stating that he believes that Pierre Poilièvre lived down to every expectation he could have had, can Canadian media now, finally, after 2 decades of almost nothing but terrible decisions that displayed a lack of judgment, discernment, and character, conclude that Pierre Poilièvre is a terrible option for Canada? And can they start beating that drum as hard and as relentlessly for Pierre's departure as they did for Justin Trudeau's, because for all those who did not like Justin Trudeau, for the most part, aside the convoyers, they claim to have problem with his virtue signaling. Well, we have Pierre giving us some lack of virtue signaling here, and at least Justin Trudeau did not celebrate a man who routinely violates international law and has expressed a desire to annex us. So could we please have a drumbeat that is at least as strong, asking on a daily basis, when is Poilièvre going, as we had for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau? Because by any metric, what Pierre Poilièvre is doing right now, is objectively worse. There are disloyals, very treacherous disloyals among us. And it would be nice if somewhere our mainstream media could actually commit journalism for a period of time and make this abundantly clear to the Canadian public. Pierre Poilièvre will have handed Mark Carney a majority with this statement. When it will happen, I'm not sure. But as I mentioned before, I just have to believe that there's at least one member of the Conservative Party of Canada who is still somewhat of a progressive conservative, or just an actual conservative, because what's going on right here is not conservatism. They call it that, but it is not that. Who possibly cannot be down with this. This has to be the final nail in this man's coffin. Political coffin. And another interesting little detail that happened. Someone popped up out of the blue yesterday. Someone we have been hard on this show in the past for actions that he had taken and for stances he had taken when he was a cabinet minister within the Conservative Party of Canada once. Hadn't heard anything from him in a significant while. But I'm going to preface this by a statement from David Coletto of Abacus, who stated, Pierre Poilièvre has welcomed Maduro's removal, but cheering a Trump-led military intervention may narrow rather than broaden his appeal, especially among Canadians already concerned about proximity to Trump and executive overreach. He has a Substack entry on this that I will not read right now because we are closing in on 3 hours, and we'll probably cross it by the time I do the extra. But today is a special occasion here. Might save it for another episode to come. Well, somebody came in and said, "Well said, David." And then said more. Now, the source of this was very surprising, but it would seem, if one can consider, if this person is still considered a conservative, he may not be, because his party appeared to have abandoned him and to let him twist in the wind. Now, he took some actions. There were consequences for those actions, and ended up paying the consequences for those actions. But yeah, kids and cubs, you might be surprised. But Del Mastro. Well said, David. The celebratory release put out by Pierre Poilièvre that failed to make so much a mention of international law, multilateral consensus, or concern for potential global implications is unlikely to age well. We have comment from a kid here, Loilo. The guy who went to jail spoke out against PP. Yeah. Yeah, kids and cubs. The calls are now coming from inside the house. And kids and cubs. Normally on our show, we curate news because we don't typically make news. We don't consider ourselves journalists. But every now and then, we have a guest like Bonnie Critchley that came in when we had the first national interview with her, where we end up making a little bit of news. It's not our primary intent with the show, but we might be making a little bit of news because even though we have been hard on Mr. Dean Del Mastro, one of the things that we say on this show is that we don't care when you arrive so long as you arrive. We reached out to him and we invited him to be a guest on the show because perhaps he knows more about his former colleague in the time that they were working together that he would like to share with us. And he has said, sure, happy to talk. So we are working on that, kids and cubs. Now, full transparency, and we did full transparency with him. We let him know, we said, we are admittedly a show with a more centrist, center-left perspective, but we welcome all with courtesy and respect, as you know. Right? We've had conservatives on our show, not many, because not many agree, but we've had people with conservative leanings on the show before. Right? We had Senator Patrick Brazo, for example, who was open to talking about the tougher parts of his career, and we treated that with respect and without sensationalism and all of that kind of stuff. And we will do the same should it follow through that Mr. Del Mastro does come on the show. We have asked him whether or not we can talk about that portion as well of his career, because we don't want to just have him come in and just, bitched about Pierre or punch down on him. But we have the opportunity of having a former cabinet minister on the show. So, we want to ask him about his career and all that kind of stuff. And, we asked, do you mind, right? If you want to talk about how your political career kind of came to an end, we'd be willing to go there and treat it respectfully. And we also offered him the option of not going there if he didn't want to. And he said, if you followed me much during my time in politics, you are probably aware that I'm not the kind of person that avoids tough questions. I would be open to discuss any topics. The way my days tend to go, and then he gives me his availability. But yeah, said later in the month, I could likely make a morning work if you wanted to do live, or we could do a pre-record. So we'll work on that, on making arrangements. But it, for the moment, at least, it looks like we will have former cabinet minister, Harper government, Dean Del Mastro, on our show. Dean Del Mastro wasn't only said a cabinet minister, but well, actually, yeah, I shouldn't say cabinet minister. He was the parliamentary secretary to the Prime Minister of Canada, to Stephen Harper, between 2010 and 2013. So the initial invitation is, if you have more to say about Pierre and your experiences with him as a colleague, we would be very happy to have you as a guest on our show. And he said yes. And then we asked him if he wanted to talk more broadly about his career in politics as well. And, again, the conditions under which his career came to an end. And he says that he's open to that. So there you go. There you go. Working hard to bring you what we can when we can. We can't believe our luck and our good fortune here. But again, just to tell you, we will treat Mr. Dean Del Mastro with respect. We promise not to sensationalize anything and not to try to do any gotcha questions. So we won't do that. We're here again to try to elevate the discussion and to actually get more information to you. Because regardless of what Mr. Del Mastro done in the past, he has paid his debt to society. And said he happens to be on the correct side of this particular issue. And like I said, we like to hear from all kinds of voices, and we want people who are conservative leaning to come conservative leaning, but of good faith, right? To come on our show and have discussions with them. So it won't be a discussion where we're going to try to get him or corner him or embarrass him. But we will ask about his career, and we will ask about what it was like. I fully intend to ask him whether or not he felt he was let down by his party, because when the crap hit the fan for him, nobody was out speaking for him or defending him publicly. And this is a party that tends to defend the absolute most terrible behaviors that are out there. I mean, again, we have a leader of a party that has a lifetime compliance agreement with Elections Canada, who is part of a party that pleaded guilty to in and out, and is celebrating Donald Trump with all of Donald Trump's infamous history with regards to not being a keen observer of the law. So, fingers crossed that we'll be able to arrange that and bring that to you. But for now, as we know, the answer is yes, and we will be pursuing this. All right. Kids and Cubs. That is... Oh, yes. Oh, so I see Play Power. Why does everyone keep thinking the CPC will have moderates in attendance at the leadership convention? We don't. At least on this show, we don't, because we know that Pierre Poilièvre very heavily had his thumb on the scale in terms of picking those delegates at the time. But he picked them relatively early on, and there's a lot that has happened since he's picked them. And while there may be people that were picked because they were loyal to Pierre, given that they are seeing how he is imploding at the moment, and there might be some of these decisions that are made if they decide to turn on him, not because they don't like Pierre or they disagree with what he said in their hearts of hearts, but because he said them in such a sloppy way. And please know that you cannot spell sloppy without PP. That even though they may agree with him, they still may deem it can be true at the same time that they agree with every single one of Pierre Poilièvre's positions, and still find that he is a liability. That means that the party won't need the next election because of the manner in which he just carelessly and recklessly does it without seemingly having any care for the consequences, not only on the nation, but his party and the chances of electability of his caucus. So you can still be a Poilièvre supporter in everything he believes and still want him out, because you can math. Pierre's not good at his job. He just isn't. And you don't have to be a moderate conservative to recognize that Pierre may not be good at his job and may not be the person that is going to lead you to the promised land, even though you endorse absolutely everything he says. That's the thing that might have changed in the lead up to the leadership convention. It's not going to be that people suddenly became moderates. It might just be pure naked self-interest. We can't win with you, and Operation Keep Pierre Talking is working just a little too well. I'm sorry. We do love you, but you gotta go. Because I love, as much as I love you, Pierre, I love having a chance at actually winning more. That is a dynamic that could be happening behind the scenes. Pierre has certainly created the winning conditions for that to happen. Because ready, aim, fire. That's Pierre. Be the first one out to put the frame on things. Then cross your fingers and hope that the frame survives. But increasingly, more and more of his public comments don't age well, and it doesn't take months or years for them to not age well. Some of them age very poorly within hours. He's in trouble. That sound you hear is the sound of a man drowning politically. And there may be one or two conservatives that are not disinclined to hold his head down underwater for a while. Just saying. Politically speaking, of course. All right, kids and cubs, that is the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless, so please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do, especially when you share a little bit about why our content resonates with you. Because that is advertising we just cannot buy. Now, kids and cubs, if you are busy and on the go, and sometimes are not able to watch the show live with the damn fam, we have our pod page, and that's podpage.com/the-true-north-beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you go there, this is the place where we do normally have the audio version only of our podcasts so that you can download them and take them with you. We haven't been able to put them up for a while. It's about 2 or 3 months now that we are behind. But Mr. Grizzly and I were able to have some time to chat. And it seems that this over the course of this week, because I have to go to the Ottawa Beaver Lodge for a dentist appointment, I'm going to stay for a couple of days extra. And Mr. Grizzly is going to show me how to take care of that portion so that I can take on that work and be able to get that out myself. Also, if you are on our YouTube channel, you might have noticed that anything under our live tab that is from the morning show hasn't been updated on the video tab for about a month. So I'm going to learn how to do that as well. It will take me some time, obviously, to get everything back up to date because, well, you know, we have 1 month of work on the videos to catch up with and 3 months of work on the podcast to catch up with. I think I might do something where I start posting because originally the goal was to try to keep them all in order. But until I catch up on 3 months of podcasts in terms of getting up, there might be, we will be doing other shows. So I might try to do putting the most recent one up and then putting up the ones that we missed with maybe from the vault or retro or note there, the shows that got away or something of the sort. So that our full library will be available on our pod page and Apple and Apple Podcasts and all the other sources where we are seated, and that you will be able to find them. But of course, they won't be in order, because if I waited for that, we might be in June before I catch up, because if we're producing new content 5 days a week in addition, um, you know, ah, that's a lot of work. But I will be taking that on. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, it is not an excessive amount of work, and that I can get caught up on it relatively quickly. But yes, we have found a solution, and I'm going to school, Kits and Cups. I'm going to learn how to do it. It would really be nice if I had money for an intern to help with that. That would be very, very, very helpful. But it looks like it's going to be yours truly taking it on. So again, not afraid of a little hard work, but yes, I'll have a little additional on the plate. There may be a possibility, I'm not sure, because I do like doing this show 5 days a week, but I would like to get this portion of the work done as quickly as possible as well, and it does take some time to do the editing and the cleaning up of the audio. Could possibly be a reduced schedule as I am doing that. I really hope not to, because I would like that. But depending on what the time demands may be, there are only 24 hours in the day, and there is only one of me. So I might have to change the schedule for a short while. It might mean fewer shows while I'm trying to catch up on the backlog. But I will try my best to make it such that that is not the case. But I just want to open the door to that possibility, because the quicker I get this part done, the better it will be. You don't want to have too many loose ends untied for too long when you're doing this kind of initiative. And, it is going to be some work to get some of our podcast audience back, because I'm sure over 3 months we may have lost a few, and they may have moved on to other sources since then. And so we might be, there's quite a possibility that we might be starting from scratch all over again in terms of building an audience there. But like I said, it's worth it. So the work for me is definitely worth it. This is my dream, and I do want to keep it going for as long as possible. And I really was not looking forward to the possibility of maybe having to end the Daily Beaver Morning Show or the True North Eager Beaver for not being able to get the material that we make out to the audience. So we're going to make an attempt at this, and fingers crossed that it goes well. But we did want to give you an update on that. It's like I said, I mentioned on the previous show, and I'm not saying this to guilt anybody into making donations and all that kind of stuff. But as I mentioned, our tips have fallen off a cliff because we got a lot of them from our audio podcast audience, and without getting the podcasts out there and without getting that revenue, the venture would be a little too expensive, given how we've grown, for me to handle personally and bankroll personally, like we did at the beginning when we were just doing audio and just one show a week. So I need this to work. Full transparency, we told you we would always tell you how the sausage was made. So I need this to work. So this is why I am taking on the responsibility of doing it. And hopefully it will work out. But like I said, it could result in us slowing down our rate of production temporarily while we catch up. And then if that is the case, once we do catch up, we would then go back to being 5 days a week. But like I said, our primary course of action is to attempt to do it all. And then if that is not possible, then we will make adjustments. So, on the upside, though, for those of you who are fans of Lady Laura of the O Show, she is increasing her frequency to 3 times a week. So, if there happens to be a little less beaver for a short period of time, there will be more Lady Laura to compensate. So, you won't be without. All right, kids and cubs. Uh, uh, let's see. What else do we have? Because so yeah, that's our pod page. And if you would like to help us, you can do that in 2 ways. And you can do that by going to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page right there. Boom. That QR code will bring you right to it. And there we have our buttons like, share, and subscribe. If you can give them a little tickle, that would make us so happy. Go ahead and smash. It's a bright, fresh new year. Just like you need to get your steps in, you need to get your smashes in too. Keep that heart rate up. And Kits, Cassie, and Elaine, of course, as usual, would approve. So please make them happy too by giving us a little click and helping us with the algorithm. And if you would like to help us with the costs that we incur to bring this show to you 5 days a week, we would be grateful for your enthusiastic expressions of encouragement through a donation to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund at our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And if you drop a couple of loonies or toonies and to the Emergency Hydration Fund here at the Beaver Lodge, then that goes a long way to keeping your favorite beaver nice and moist. And since we're talking about it, let's have a little beaver moisture. Yum, 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 yum. So if you would like to help with that, we would be very grateful for your assistance. And remember, kids and cubs, that we also have Super Chat and we have memberships in our on our YouTube page that you can access for a Super Chat is whatever you donate. Memberships is for a small fee. And Kits and Cubs as well. If you are doing the Buy Canadian thing, and please, I hope you are, because it's still important that we keep doing that, even more so now that we've seen what's going on in Venezuela, and we are feeling a little existential stress, maybe even a little panic, or concern or worry, wherever you are on that spectrum. Then you might not want to help fund the tech bros who are funding and encouraging the President of the United States to behave in this way. So if you want to be sure that the oligarchy does not get a share of your donation, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address, and you can send us a direct bank-to-bank transfer so that your transaction remains entirely Canadian. The share that would go to the tech bros, a portion of which would go to Trump, goes to us, and you get more beaver bang for your beaver buck. There you go. So thank you for all that you are able to do to support us. Now, if you're not able to contribute financially, again, as we always say on the show, the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. So please do not worry, but do take the time to use our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, to write to us and let us know what you think about the show. Have some guest suggestions, show suggestions, things that you think that we can do to make the show better or improve it. Doesn't necessarily have to be stories or guests, just like, hey, have you tried this or have you thought about this? We consider everything. So please do let us know what you think. And as well, kids and cubs, these are tough times. And sometimes your beaver just needs some good news. And there's no better good news that he would like to hear than about good things happening to you, big or small. Whether it's an achievement, if you're artistic and created something. And of course, remember, our kids who cook hashtag. If you are making something yummy or see a yummy recipe or all that, please share all of that with us. It means the world to us that you do. All right, kids and cubs. Let's see. I guess that's all I got for you now. So, because democracy says something that you do, remember, petition House of Commons petition 6821 for our media ownership to make sure that it is Canadian. 8,071 signatures. The signatures are starting to accumulate again now that we are out of the holiday season. So let's make that grow. And I'm going to put that in the chat for you right there. so that you can share that. Um, words of wisdom, as I mentioned, take a breath, and time is your friend on this one. The hot takes are usually not the best takes. As our friend Olga Nasarova said, she wants to wait until at least Thursday to see how a lot of this is playing out. So just keep your minds open, and um, don't hold fast yet to one particular narrative, because there's a lot of people with various interests and motives, some known, some not, that are intervening at this point, and some of them are doing so with a goal to have you see the situation in a certain way before there is enough verifiable evidence and proof out there, uh, and verified also proof and evidence out there to indicate that which narrative is the one that should prevail. So take in the information, but don't buy into any one narrative just yet, because the actual story is yet to be revealed. Okay. It could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Since we did a little bit of the Canadians who do us proud thing at the beginning, when we talked about Félix and Victoria Mboko and our Canadian junior team who will be competing for bronze, we won't have an Easter egg. I also have to go because I just looked at the time and I think I might actually arrive late for my curling match, which is not great. So, so I will let you go, and we will see you tomorrow, everyone. And try to stay calm today, okay? Amour et bisous. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.